pulled out of this area. I met with a resident, and he mentioned he's only seen it happen like this maybe a couple times a year.
Yep, I got you.
All right, very cool.
All right, cool. Yeah, I potted up Fox just so in case you can hear something.
That helps. Thanks.
Cool, good deal. All right, minute and a half.
It's time, but when it does, it's bad.
Fox Weather's Brandy Campbell. The storm, once known as Agatha in the Pacific Ocean, will be renamed Alex if it reaches tropical storm strength. That could happen tonight. Calmer waters in the Philippine Sea, where the U.S. and South Korea have concluded a 3-day naval exercise. The maneuvers come amid recent provocations from North Korea. 2 more funerals in Texas today for a pair of 10-year-old students shot and killed in their classroom last month. One state senator says the school district police chief who was in charge of handling the massacre in Uvalde didn't have a radio, so it's unclear how he communicated with other officers.
We also know that children who were in the room were calling 911 at the time asking to be rescued. It isn't clear if the chief ever heard those calls. The head of Texas DPS has said Arredondo believed the active shooter situation had turned into a barricade and that was the wrong call.
Fox says Jessica Rosenthal, nearly 24 police officers were inside the school for an hour. They had been directed to not engage the shooter. At the French Open, Iga Świątek of Poland has beaten American Coco Gauff in the women's final. The men's final is tomorrow. America's listening to Fox News.
Good morning. You're listening to Winning at Life. Live financial news talk radio. And we've got a lot to talk about today. Yeah, I'm, with some of the things going on, I'm gonna give my take on a few things, but for the most part, we're talking about money today. I'll give you a couple thoughts on society as well, and some may agree with it, some may not, but we're all humans, and it kind of is the start of the mess because we're all humans there. So that gives you an idea about that. I'm going to talk about taxes today, focus on Roth accounts. Let me get my goodie bag here. I'm your host, Gregory Ricks. I'm going to talk about inflation. I'm going to talk about the recession that's coming. And I'll tell you, that's going to be both good and bad as we move forward with that. Let me pull out, I've got a whole binder, 1.5 inch thick, and we would need a couple days of continuous radio to cover everything in that, but I've got some ideas I'm going to share with you in the second hour regarding required minimum distributions on non-spouse inherited accounts, and when you name a trust, perhaps as the beneficiary of your IRA, and maybe you shouldn't do that going forward. If you've done that, maybe you should re-look at that situation, because what you might have is created a taxable event depending on how it's structured, and I'm not talking about, IRAs are going to be taxed, but did you make it worse and accelerate it and put it in a higher tax situation? We're going to talk about some of that in the second hour today. So once again, I've got an article here regarding 4 tips for winning in the bearish environment. Another one. This is, we may talk about this a couple times this morning. You know, this is a 3-hour radio show. I'm going to talk also about this article here, written by Mike Winters, and this is going to help some of you because I get this question time to time. You know, I had this asked to me early this week again. It's like, you know, I worked at a job 25 years ago and had a 401k. And I don't remember what I did with it, if I got it, if I moved it. We're going to help you with that. And I'm sure there's a lot of you out there with that situation. The next that's on my mind today regarding withdrawal strategies. And that's the withdrawal strategies. You know, I'll word it a different way. Taking income from these investment accounts, these IRAs that you've built up when you get towards your work optional lifestyle. So we'll talk about that some as well. What is the date today? June 4th. Is this our 12-year anniversary? I think this is our 12-year anniversary of doing Winning at Life radio. Woohoo! Yeah, it started on the first Saturday 12 years ago today. Started doing this show. And a few years ago, we replayed that first show, and then I put it in the vault to forever stay there. For me, it was kind of painful, but it was my first show. I didn't, wasn't comfortable for about 40 minutes of the 1-hour show that we started with. And then that next 20 minutes, I got my footing, and we've been rolling ever since. I even hired a coach to work with me for weeks in advance of that first show, and I think I retained him for about 2 years on going to doing that. And then I ended that coaching program. But, once again, I always believe in coaching. So, and when I was approached to do the show, it was to be a live show. And I'm like, oh my gosh, live? That's a lot of pressure. Oh, and you're going to take callers too. Oh, I am. Well, that's a lot of pressure as well. And actually, I said, nah, I think I'll pass. But they didn't quit. And after another month of discussions, they kind of convinced me to do the show. And then it evolved over the years to a 3-hour Saturday show. And for the previous 6 years, I did a weeknight show as well. And I decided 6 years of my evenings having a priority of doing a live radio show. I decided this past fall that I was good with that it was probably time for that to run its course, and we all came to an agreement for it to end in December. So it did, and honestly, I enjoyed that time. I'm glad I did it, but I don't miss it either from that standpoint. My real love is this 3-hour show that we do every Saturday for you, that it has been live, and the original show started on Saturday morning, and we're and our reach has been global. We've taken calls from Europe as well, and Canada over the years, and that's part of audio streaming is easy everywhere. And then the live video streaming that we've been doing for a number of years now really was a game changer as well in our reach. You can go watch us on Facebook Live. We're also live streaming on YouTube, and you could connect to us and become a part of the Winning at Life Nation by downloading the Winning at Life app. Through that app, you can actually text me, email me, and call the show with a few taps to do so there. And that gets you that membership. Doesn't cost you anything, and we'll give you some updates weekly on what's going on. One of the things I had a brainstorm this morning. I don't know how it would work because, I'm a licensed wealth advisor in my day job and have done that for years and years, and founder and CEO of Gregory Ricks and Associates. But I think more of my I'm known for doing this show for years and years now, and it's become a part of me. And an idea here, and in our industry, there's what we refer to as compliance. So we have oversight and everything. But one of my ideas, subject to oversight and it being okay, because one of the things we do is we put up articles on a blog that's added on throughout the week, and my team, I give them stuff I read and say, hey, I think this would be really good. And this is stuff I talk about on the show as well. But I was thinking, if we, based on what we do on the show, and if you didn't catch the show, you can catch replays for a period of time. And some of this is turned into podcasts as well. So we have the Ask Gregory podcast, I believe. What is the name of the podcast, right? Okay. And I kind of get it confused because we also do a Wednesday Q&A that content's used from the show or newly created FAR questions that come in as well. So the idea I had was thinking about, we fire out an email beginning of the week to listeners and those connected to the Winning at Life Nation, in case you missed it, to give you links to the articles that I covered on the show and at what points might be some great content if you wanted to skip ahead, such as that. I just think it's not something we've done specifically like that, but I like the idea of that, which enables you to pick up those ideas and such that I share. So the Winning at Life app, once again, you can download that, add that to your smartphone. You can watch and reach us over here through the streaming, and I'm going to share to all the people that have followed me on Facebook, which is Gregory Ricks, and the show's Facebook page is Winning at Life, and I'm going to do a share on the next break. I didn't get a chance to do it before the show. One of the magic things over this past 12 years of doing this show is you, the listener. That's what's most important to me, and you calling into the show. So the most popular types of questions kind of really is Social Security's been the number one question over the years. What to do about investments? Is there a safer way to go? We just get a lot of general, various investing and saving questions there. So you can join the conversation. We're going to take a break. You can hear the music playing, so we're about to take a break. But if you want to join the conversation, it's 504-260-0995. You're listening to Winning at Life with Gregory Ricks. Concerned about market volatility, rising inflation, higher taxes? How could it impact you? Make sure you're still on track to reach your financial goals and win at retirement.
Wine, Wisdom, and Food with Gregory Ricks. Tuesday, June 14th or Wednesday, June 15th, 630 Fleming Steakhouse in Metairie. Reserve your seat now. 504-832-9200 or GregoryRiggs.com. Firm offers insurance services. Best advisory services offered through AE Wealth Management, LLC.
Gumbo Nation, this is Dwayne Stein. My team and I make dreams come true daily. Buying a home could seem stressful if working with the wrong lender. Mortgage Gumbo removes that with our exclusive pre-approval process called Fast Track. Don't let other lender horror stories scare you, like last-minute turndowns leaving you homeless. Get your exact buying power so you can shop with confidence. When buying a home, you don't want a lender right most of the time. With Fast Track, we get it right all the time. Visit snapsendandsave.com.
If you like money, you'll love the Winning at Life app. On the Winning at Life app, you can hear the Ask Gregory podcast, where you'll find episodes based on a financial topic. So if you're looking for help on a specific situation, there's a good chance you'll find it on the Ask Gregory podcast, including episodes on 401ks, taxes, stocks, Social Security, gold, and whether or not you should buy an RV. Hear the Ask Gregory podcast on the Winning at Life app, your wallet's favorite app.
If you've been listening to Winning at Life for a while now, you probably already know that estate planning is more than just a will. You may need a trust. You definitely need both of your powers of attorney. So what's your plan? Hi, I'm Wes Blanchard, an estate planning attorney with offices in Metairie. Listen, don't leave your loved ones in a bind. Call me and we'll make you a plan or update your existing plan. Find me at wjblanchardlaw.com.
The Ricks Report with Gregory Ricks.
One of the core jobs with annuities that goes back hundreds of years is to guarantee income for life. It has that option in there. We like to use it as a distribution tool of income that, markets go all to hell and your assets won't go down. So that should be part of your blend to help levelize volatility with some risk-averse assets that's going to grow despite what's going on in the markets. It can be pension-like money, and a lot of what we do is bond-like money in that world. Bond-like is what annuities do, not what they are.
Winning at Life with Gregory Ricks, Saturday mornings at 10 on News Talk 99.5 WRNO. Find us on the Winning at Life app or GregoryRicks.com. Investment advisory services offered through AE Wealth Management, LLC.
I'm having a record year. Quarter notes and Hank's halftime. I'm pounding on this hot of mine. Song to song, I pass my time.
Hey, y'all.
Speakers on 10.
12 years. Winning at Life Radio. I'm your host, Gregory Ricks. Yeah, a little background on me. I'm CEO, founder of Gregory Ricks and Associates, the Total Wealth Authority. We help people with their money. We have a guided planning, trademark guided planning system to help you in a lot of areas. There's some 60 different things we do for people, but we have a focused process to take you through and get you taken care of and get you on and keep you on a path to create a increased possibility of success there. And, some of the focus is income planning, investment planning, tax planning, estate planning, healthcare planning, risk planning, cash management. That's some of the core areas that we assist on. And from the investment side, we use the Invest 50-50 philosophy to keep balance and rotation going forward. With the markets and such, this year has been a lot of questions, and that's important to us, is those questions. And it's the reason for the Invest 50-50 philosophy, because, you've got known risks out there. You can't go through life saying a market always goes up, it never goes down, because history tells us differently. History kind of tells us, we've got a 10% correction about every 2 years. We've got a 20% or more every decade. So you kind of know what the risks are. And history also tells us how to skew a higher return over time and follow those principles. So you want to combine what history tells us, what's in favor, what's the known risks, and you have to couple it with one other thing. And I think the other part that I didn't mention, what we do, it is relationship help. And no, not with your marriage, it's just with you and helping you with your money. And that's an ongoing discussion. It's an ongoing relationship. There has to be trust. You have to be comfortable. We have to have open discussions, and we have to be upfront, honest, and have clarity with each other. And if you're bothered by something, yeah, we should talk about it, because I'm going to do so on the same side of that. So that's a little bit of background about me, and I'll get into this as well. I think it's important in how we do it as a team approach. You know, the great resignation has impacted our firm as well. We had some people leave. We had some advisors leave because they wanted to seek other opportunities and such. And I had a longtime service person leave as well. But you know, and it hurts. It always does when somebody leaves, but that's we've always kind of had a rotation of employees over the years. But here's part of the psychology of investors is they want to work with somebody and get attached to that. And in this industry, what happens most of the time from an investor standpoint is most firms are small firms, honestly. Now, you could be a part of a really big company, but those firms operate as small businesses, even under some of these well-known names you have out there. Here's what happens, and advisor you're working with, whoever you're working with in whatever role, whether it's at an RIA firm, it's at a brokerage firm, money manager, whatever you may call it, typically it's just a small group of people or an individual with an assistant. And their, goal is to attract people to help with their money. And what evolves over time is they keep attracting people, and all those people have to be serviced as well annually or multiple times a year. So over a period of time, their calendar is going to fill up with servicing of existing clients. Therefore, they're not able to bring on more. And if they continue that, then they're probably not giving proper service to everybody. So they outgrow their own small business, and then what happens is dissatisfaction, or they tire of it, want to hand off their clients to somebody else, or sell some of their clients, or sell the business, or God forbid they die, and who's handling things then? See, I think that philosophy, that model is very old school and broken. And I'll tell you, there's two different types of wealth advisors out there. And I wish I had known this kind of like 20 years ago to figure this out. And there's advisors that are good at the educating and onboarding new clients. They just love that phase of the business. They don't care so much about the ongoing nurturing of the relationship and the service work, because that's different work. And it may not, and in that way, the guys that like the front end, that's more satisfying to them versus the back end of that. Then there's wealth advisors that love the nurturing, the continued discussions, that relationship building and that type of work of making adjustments and changes going forward. See, we figured that out. And we know, think about where you're working. Is everybody going to stay at that job? No. There's no more of this guy going to work for Ford for 40 years and working on the assembly line. Doesn't happen. For one, they may not be building that vehicle for 40 years, except for F-150s in that case. But people are going to rotate, for whatever reason, rotate out. I always love who I hire and want to keep them forever, but they also may not quite feel that way. There's so many dynamics at play, and people look at life differently, and especially post-COVID. Now, even if we didn't have that in the mix, we understand now there's two types of wealth advisors. And you expect to have continuity as a client going forward. And I expect you to have continuity. But I want continuity to be from a team of people. So at our firm, we essentially connect you to 2 wealth advisors at our firm. We're also going to have you connected to an analyst on this team as well, and we're going to have you connected to 2 service people, knowing one or more of them may rotate out at different times over the coming years, but you have continuity because all 5 of these people are familiar with you. They all help each other and work towards working with you and having you taken care of. And those teams are assigned to only so many clients there. They're not, that team is not going to be there for everybody. And what we're building out is, I'll just call hubs, but 5-member hubs to make sure clients are always taken care of. Because your needs may pop up at a certain point where one of those that you might prefer to talk to isn't available, but you've got other members of that team that are familiar with you, you're familiar with them, and they're always keeping in touch and communicating with you, so you have consistency, continuity there, and you feel looked out for, which you are. Another problem in the industry is a lot of these small firms, everybody kind of does a different thing. You could have few people working at a small firm, and they have different management philosophies. And I think everything should be process driven. I think the management philosophy should be consistent with no matter who you sit down with at the firm. And if somebody leaves, the question is, well, who's my advisor? You shouldn't have to ask that, because your hub, your team is always there. And I'll tell you the other thing is, in our firm, I'm always there. I'm the ultimate person responsible for what's going on. But I can't be in every meeting, do every call, handle every service situation. But through our process, there's consistency there, whether we're giving advice, helping with the money, or doing some type of planning. You always have that consistency, and you always have a familiar group of people, and knowing that I'm oversighting everybody and we're involved in that. Another thing that we've changed is the focus days for appointments are Monday through Thursday. Friday is kind of where we all get together at the office. It's to review that week, what are we needing to do, and what does next week look like, and prepare for that. So when you do come in for a meeting, we as an entire company are very prepared to take care of you, and we know who on those hubs are going to be preparing and taking care of you that next week when you're needing help. If you've got a financial situation, not sure what to do, call us right here on the show. 504-260-0995.
Ask Gregory is a financial podcast from the guys who bring you Winning at Life with Gregory Ricks. Something that's come up on the show over the last 10 years is that if you're not at your old job, maybe your 401k shouldn't be either. But do you really know why we say that? It's a funny thing. We put a few $100 in our 401k every month. It ends up to be thousands of dollars every year, hundreds of thousands of dollars over our career, and you don't really know that much about it. How do you invest it? How do you diversify? What do you buy? What do you avoid? You've got a financial situation and you're not quite sure what to do. Ask Gregory. Ask Gregory is our new podcast with these financial topics broken down into specific little chunks. So if you have a financial situation or you just want to learn more about money, ask Gregory. Find the Ask Gregory podcast on the Winning at Life app or wherever you get podcasts. Investment advisory services offered through AE Wealth Management, LLC. The firm is not affiliated with the U.S. government or any government agency.
Hi, I'm Gregory Ricks. Today we see rising costs at the grocery store and the gas pump. Have you prepared for rising inflation and higher taxes in your financial plan? Get our guide, Inflation and Your Retirement. Go to GregoryRicks.com/inflation to get our guide today. We are Gregory Ricks & Associates, the Total Wealth Authority.
Our firm provides insurance services, investment, and advisory services. Offered only by duly registered individuals through AE Wealth Management, LLC. AE Wealth Management, LLC, and Gregory Ricks & Associates are not affiliated companies.
Concerned about market volatility, rising inflation, higher taxes? How could it impact you? Make sure you're still on track to reach your financial goals and win at retirement.
Wine, Wisdom, and Food with Gregory Ricks. Tuesday, June 21st and Thursday, June 23rd, 6:30, Keith Young Steakhouse in Madisonville. Reserve your seat now. 504-832-9200 or GregoryRicks.com. Firm offers insurance services. Advisory services offered through AE Wealth Management, LLC.
Cancer Crusaders has been raising funds for cancer research in New Orleans since 1976. Cancer Crusaders, Inc. is a nonprofit, all-volunteer organization with no administrative overhead. Cancer Crusaders has raised over $4 million so far, and all of that money goes to the Louisiana State University Health Sciences Center Foundation and the Tulane Cancer Center in New Orleans, where they are literally working on a cure for cancer. Get involved, donate, volunteer, or attend a fundraiser. CancerCrusadersLA.com.
Fox News, I'm Karen McHugh. An overnight shooting in an Arizona strip mall leaves 3 critically wounded.
Many rounds were shot into this crowd of people as everyone fled the area. I don't have any indication that anyone had broken in or that it was a burglary or an unlicensed party or anything.
Sergeant Andy Williams of the Phoenix PD, the shooter, is still on the loose. Heavy rain from a tropical storm is inundating much of South Florida, with flooding as deep as 3 feet in some spots. Police and rescue squads are urging residents to stay indoors.
We have 8 high-angle rescue vehicles that are out assisting people that are stranded in their vehicles. We've seen a lot of abandoned cars. We've been about 125 storm-related calls since about 1:30 in the morning when this all started to transpire.
Lieutenant Pete Sanchez of the Miami Police Department. America is listening to Fox News.
Winning at Life with Gregory Ricks is a copyright of Down South Strategies for the private use of our audience. Any unauthorized use of this broadcast without express consent is prohibited. For podcasts, show information, and contacts to our sponsors, go to winningatlife.com or download the Winning at Life app. If you have a financial situation and you're not quite sure what to do, you better call Gregory. We are Winning at Life with Gregory Ricks.
We are Winning at Life. Live Financial News Talk Radio. I'm your host, Gregory Ricks. Thanks for joining us today. You are important to us as well. So kind of the last segment, I kind of talked about industry philosophy and hopefully gave you a little bit more understanding of how I see the industry, how the firms work, and what's a better way to take care of a client. And there has to be behind the scenes help as well. So that's why I think it's proper structure to build a hub of people that's consistent, not to where you're always being handed off or such, and you're going to have different people in that hub helping you. But it's not like, oh, every time I come, somebody's different or whatever. So it should be more consistency, and from a standpoint of if you're operating or utilizing a small firm that just has a couple of people staff, what you're going to find is the difficulty is having to wait for them to get back to you, for somebody to respond to your call or your message or your email, just because they're understaffed. And if they're doing what they should be doing, they're probably in meetings majority of the time. So they should be staffed in a way where you're being responded to. And even if they don't have the answer, they should respond to you and then let you know when they're going to get back to you with that answer. So there's consistency there. If you would like to learn more about our concept of that, how we operate, and look at our process, you can call the office, and we've got offices in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, Metairie, Louisiana, that's the New Orleans area, Mandeville, Louisiana, that's the North Shore of the New Orleans area, and for Mississippi, we have a Gulfport office in the South Mississippi area. Now, for those outside of any driving distance to that's outside of your tolerance, we can also help you by phone. And neat thing is technology is we do video meetings. Basically, probably I think we primarily use Zoom. And all those meetings are set up and structured as password protected. So it's a secure environment that you're having the discussion. And the team member, wealth manager that's meeting with you is doing that in a conference room as well, which is a secure setting at the office. So however you're looking to get help and wherever that's at that you reside or live, we have the ability to provide you help, start a conversation, and see if we can add value to your life and improve what you're doing with your money, increase the probability of success. And there's only one number to call, 504-832-9200. That's the only number you need to remember, and that'll connect you with any office or anything that you're needing help with. The email, if you want to email, and several people will be sent that email because we have a team email, and that way it doesn't get missed, and it's info@gregoryricks.com. Even if you're wanting to direct email to me specifically, that team member is going to see that and make sure I get it if you're wanting it to focus to my attention. And that's why that's structured that way, that we have a hub of people monitoring communications as well. So it's info@gregoryricks.com. And the website is gregoryricks.com, and more about the show and what we do here is in the media tab for that as well. Got a few minutes here. I'm going to get something off my mind here. And hey, I'll throw out one other idea that I talked about earlier. Let me preempt that thought there because I want to limit myself how much I talk about this other thought. But when I talk about doing that, they say, do live radio 12 years ago to start doing the show. And I was like, oh, I don't know about live radio. I know a lot of people in the industry that do pre-recorded, and what they said, no, the impact, if you want to have a great impact, do a live show and take callers. And that's what we've been doing over the years. And it's kind of my favorite thing is to have live callers. I was told I had an interview this week at WBRZ Channel 2 in Baton Rouge, and hopefully I got the call signs right for the station, and said, yeah, they want to ask you some questions about inflation and recession. And I said, okay, yeah, we got to do it. And I can't remember the date. Yeah, it was Thursday at 4 o'clock. We have to be there. So I walk in there and walk through, and we get to the studios. And then they say, well, I asked Jennifer, I said, I thought this was going to be pre-recorded. She says, no, this is live. You're going to be on air when they ask the question. I'm like, what? She says, oh, it'll be okay. No worries. You've got this. And this was like me finding this out about 5 minutes before I go on air. And so you can pull it. It was from the 4 o'clock live show on Thursday, if you want to go Google search it. I think we shared it on my Facebook page as well. So it was like about 19 minutes into the show that interview was done. But once again, one of those live things happening. I guess obviously I did good with it, and I think there's going to be a lot more of that, of being on various news broadcasts and being asked questions in that format, which is not so different than the radio show. We've got a lot of stuff, a lot of problems going on in society, and some of them, the fix is we got to ban all guns. Well, problem with that is we have a Second Amendment that also protects us fundamentally, I believe, as a country. I'm 61, so when I grew up and went to school, we were taught morals and values, and it was probably back in a time where religion was in school, where there was prayer, and there was the Pledge of Allegiance every day. I remember those discussions and talking about right and wrong, and that was taken out basically because, oh no, we can't have a crossing of church and state, and religion was taken out of school. And and part of the teaching I was always taught in going to church and going to school, is the 10 Commandments. It's kind of rules of behavior. And I'll tell you, my thought is, what's wrong with society? For decades, we've not taught morals and values and developed the right culture in our schools, and this people have lost their way because they're obviously, everybody's not teaching it at home, and I think there's an impact of it being taught in school. And we don't have to bring religion back, but what we've got to bring back is teaching morals and values and the golden rule, and do right by others. Don't do something to them that you wouldn't want done to you. For us to get back to doing that and fix that doesn't take religion being in school, but the schools to decide that we are going to teach this and test on it and imprint it, and it starts in kindergarten and it continues through college as well. Those that want to continue going to school will learn. If we get that started now, in a few decades, we might see better behavior among the population. I don't think you're going to overturn the Second Amendment. I'm prior U.S. Army and Mississippi Army National Guard. I have values and morals and always about doing what's right. And I was trained in the military, so I know how to handle a weapon. I know how and what a AR-15 feels like because we had the military version of that, and I'm very skilled and trained on awareness as well of in my environment, and I try to teach that to others. So we got to be mindful as we go forward and start helping each other, and we all can help each other and start making a difference. And if it's tutoring or helping younger people make better decisions with their lives, and leadership in government and such is going to have to be, you let somebody do something wrong, or they just going to quit. You know your kids, if you don't discipline them, they'll keep doing the bad habits. So, we're going to have to punish those that are breaking the rules. That'll start happening again, I hope, in the near future. So that's my thoughts on that. When we come back, let's talk about some money You're listening to Winning at Life with Gregory Ricks. We'll be right back.
If you've got a financial situation and you're not quite sure what to do, you better call Gregory.
The single biggest financial regret of Americans surveyed by Bankrate was waiting too long to start saving for retirement. Respondents 50 and older expressed this regret at a much higher rate than younger respondents. Morningstar calculated how much you need to sock away monthly to reach the magic number of $1 million saved by 65. Assuming a 7% annual return, you'd need to save $381 a month if you start at age 25 and almost $5,800 a month starting at 55. You see, that just really becomes an obstacle when you delay.
Gregory Ricks and Associates. Find us at GregoryRicks.com or call 504-832-9200. Investment advisory services offered through AE Wealth Management, LLC.
Mosquitoes. We know them as flying, blood-sucking pests, but did you know that mosquitoes are actually highly intelligent? They can smell human breath, our sweat helps them choose their next meal, and they use our body heat to find just the right place to bite. Outsmart mosquitoes with help from Mosquito Joe. Mosquito Joe has this time-release capsule that they spray that slowly releases its mosquito death over a course of a month. NewOrleans.MosquitoJoe.com. NewOrleans.MosquitoJoe.com.
Ask Gregory is a financial podcast from the guys who bring you Winning at Life with Gregory Ricks. Something that's come up is, if you're not at your old job, maybe your 401k shouldn't be either. But do you really know why we say that? Ask Gregory is our new podcast with financial topics broken down into specific little chunks. So if you have a financial situation or you just want to learn more about money, ask Gregory. Find the Ask Gregory podcast on the Winning at Life app or wherever you get podcasts. Investment advisory services offered through AE Wealth Management, LLC. The firm is not affiliated with the U.S. government or any government agency.
The Ricks Report with Gregory Ricks.
Well, one of the things I get questions about often is about investing. Hey, I've got some money. What should I do? Where should I put it? I'll ask next, how much money are we talking about? Well, yeah, I've got $5,000 to invest. So where should I go with it? And then the next question would be, is that emergency money? Do you have another account with emergency money in that? And a lot of times the answer is no. Then my next point would be, that sure sounds like emergency money. And you need to have that before you go elsewhere, saving or investing.
Winning at Life with Gregory Ricks, Saturday mornings at 10 on News Talk 99.5 WRNO. Find us on the Winning at Life app or GregoryRicks.com. Investment advisory services offered through AE Wealth Management, LLC.
Your stars need to be wished on. Your skin needs to be kissed on.
Hey, y'all. You're listening to Winning at Life, live financial news talk radio. If you want to join the conversation, want to talk about Social Security, your 401k, income planning, what to do with that old job money, join us. 504-2600-995. You know, I'll add one other thought when I kind of gave my background, military background that I have and training. And, you know, in the Army, regardless of what your specialty is, you do get a portion of infantry training is a part of basic training there. That's even if you're just going to be a National Guardsman, you're getting some infantry training. You're learning what to do and trained in that environment. And why I mention that is because I didn't get that training until I went in the military. Now, have I, as a teenager, had I handled weapons and such where I grew up? Yeah, I knew how to shoot a gun, had shot a gun, had been hunting and stuff like that. Everybody doesn't do that either. But I understood what's right and wrong and never, even by accident, have that gun pointed in the direction of a human. That would always be an error if it was done in such a way. Here's my thought and another problem, and I was and I read this in a different way a while back, and it was some time ago, but it was talking about people entering the military and their capabilities are they're kind of well trained. And why is that? Because for years they've been practicing on video games. Yeah, they're pretty well trained at using a weapon. I think the problem with this now, this would affect corporate dollars and such, but I was thinking about this morning, and I was signing into some software and accessing a website that has controlled access, and and there was two protocols where one was code through an email that was sent to me, and a backup code was texted to me. So I had to use two different methods to pass protocols to get in. And I'm like, some of these games and such, young people just shouldn't be using unless they've taught the fundamentals and know the fundamentals of right and wrong and where to use these skills that are being developed. And maybe they need to be of certain age, and people just can go buy these games. Yeah, this may affect corporate dollars and such, but maybe there need to be a set of protocols where it's, the list of right and wrongs that you have to check off, and never do this and never use this game for this situation and so forth. And then they get texted or email a code, and then they have to check off that they've gone through the protocols before they can enact in the game. If we wanted to implement that, it would be really easy to do. I just don't think you're going to stop and cut off that access, but we could start building in some teaching there, some fundamentals of right and wrong. So that's my last thought on that, on the tie-in earlier. So let me get to this article here, I think is really important from that standpoint. And over 20% of 401k plan funds are lost or forgotten. And if you've got one out there in your past, we're about to help you with that. So if you're one of many workers who have quit their jobs at a record-setting rate during the pandemic, you may have forgotten your 401k plan along the way. This article by Mike Winters. So when you quit your job, you can either leave your 401k with your old employer, you can cash it out. That's a taxable event. And if you're under age 59 and a half, could be a 10% early withdrawal penalty. Or you could roll it over into an individual retirement account. You'll hear us call that IRA. Or merge it with the new plan. So when you've left that job, you can leave it there, you can cash it, you can roll it over into an IRA, or move it into the new plan if you're changing jobs. But often workers want to leave their old employer plan behind when they switch jobs. Over time, it becomes forgotten money, or there's a disconnect on communication when they would send out stuff to you annually. I think, in my opinion, it's the worst thing you could do is leave it at the old job, even if you're not going to another job. I just think, and that's not an absolute. There's reasons to leave it there for a period of time if there's a transition to retirement, and especially if you're retiring before age 59 and a half, but yet you're older than 55. And some security and military has a waiver of that for age 50 and up, but we're talking about the 10% penalty exception. So, but for the most part, I believe that money should not be left at the old job. Situational dictates it for a period of time, or distributions of income, or proper time to roll over in the future. So with that said, people change jobs, and they probably just like, okay, and they move on. And there's times where we've had ex-employees, we had to reach out and remind them, I always kind of think of it as weird, ex-employees leaving their money in the old job plan. And so periodically, those that have will send out a reminder reminding them you still have money sitting in the company plan, just so that they're aware that it's still sitting there. So once again, and over time, people just forget about it. And then year after year, time passes. At the end of 2021, there were nearly 25 million forgotten 401k accounts worth about 20% of all 401k assets in the U.S. That's a lot of darn money. According to estimates by Capitalize, a financial services company that specializes in 401ks. Since these funds typically remain invested, they can add up to a lot of money. The average forgotten 401k account balance is $55,400. Folks, that's real money. Plus, you're likely paying unnecessary administration fees to keep those additional accounts open. So, which is why consolidating 401k plans is the smart move. To avoid missing out on all those funds, you'll want to make sure you've tracked down all your plans. So the simplest way to track down that old 401k account that you can't quite remember if you did something with or left or whatever's happened to it is to contact the previous employer's human resources department and ask if you still have a leftover plan money in that plan that you left behind. Or if you have old statements, you should include your plan's account number as well as the plan administrator's contact information. In some cases, the amount of the money held in your account might affect where the funds end up. Furthermore, if the funds in your lost 401k account to less than $1,000, your old employer may cash it out. In that case, the company might have mailed it to you. If the funds total $1,000 to $5,000, they're probably allowed to roll your plan into an IRA on your behalf. Sometimes this could become a part of a state's forgotten funds account where they can't communicate with you, so you get cash and it's sent over to the state. So, however, some employers merge with other companies, or the company you once worked for no longer exists, so this can make tracking down that old 401k money kind of difficult. Fortunately, there are searchable databases you can use to find out find the old 401k plans you may have forgotten about. You can start with, here it is, National Registry of Unclaimed Retirement Benefits. It's a secure site that allows you to search for lost plans using your Social Security number. The National Association of Unclaimed Property Administrators also operates a database that lets you search for plans by your first and last name. If you think your employer rolled over your 401k into an IRA, you can use free ERISA, that's FREERISA, to track it down. If you're still not having any luck, the Department of Labor's Abandoned Plan database might offer some updated information plans that have been or about to be discontinued. So once again, this is going to go up on my blog at GregoryRicks.com, and it's called the News Blog, and that's where we linked articles. So it's going to be where you can find it, and I'm going to probably talk about this article again in hour 3, the noon hour of Winning at Life with Gregory Ricks. Okay, so a little more help for you. If we're about to go on a break here, we've got other markets joining the show for the second hour, and there'll be even more for the third hour. But if you're looking for some help, call my office, 504-832-9200. The website is Gregory Ricks, or email us, info@GregoryRicks.com. Hey, I really enjoyed this first hour of our 12th year anniversary show. Not making a big deal, other than that's kind of my big deal talking about it. We'll be right back in a couple minutes. You're listening to Winning at Life with Gregory Ricks.
From the Gregory Ricks and Associates Wealth Management Studios, WRNO FM, New Orleans, an iHeartRadio station.
Bullets at a strip mall sent people scrambling. I'm Pam Huso, Fox News. Police in Phoenix are searching for a gunman who they say opened fire on a crowd of people overnight.
I don't have any indication that anyone had broken in or that it was a burglary or, an unlicensed party or anything. All I know right now is a large gathering of people at a strip mall.
Sergeant Andy Williams, authorities say 9 people were shot, 3 of them are critically hurt. A shooting at a party near Richmond, Virginia has left 1 person dead, 5 others were shot and wounded. It's unclear if any arrests have been made. An emergency room at a California hospital turned into a crime scene after police say a man walked in and stabbed a doctor and 2 nurses.
Our initially arriving officers were able to contain him to a room inside of the emergency room, and we were able to evacuate all of the people inside of the emergency room, the first floor, and the adjacent offices.
LA Deputy Police Chief Alan Hamilton, the victims are in stable condition, and police say there's nothing to suggest the suspect knew them. It's been a busy morning for first responders in Miami, where a storm is flooding streets.
We have 8 high-angle rescue vehicles that are out assisting people that are stranded in their vehicles. We've seen a lot of abandoned cars. We've been about 125 storm-related calls since about 1:30 in the morning when this all started to transpire.
Police Lieutenant Pete Sanchez, the system drenching much of the Florida peninsula could become a tropical storm later. It's day 3 of Queen Elizabeth's Platinum Jubilee, which celebrates her 70 years on the British throne. Among today's events, a concert at Buckingham Palace, a special parade through central London will wrap up the festivities tomorrow. America's listening to Fox News.
Good morning. You're listening to Winning at Life with Gregory Ricks. Yeah, it's financial life, financial news, talk, radio. Number of topics to share with you this hour, which is the first of the next 2 hours of Winning at Life. I'm going to have in studio with me this hour Wes Blanchard. He's an estate planning attorney, so we're going to talk about succession. We're going to talk about trust, powers of attorney, and he's probably got a few things he needs to cover as well. So that's kind of what's in my mind this hour, and as well what's important to us on our 12th anniversary show. It turns out, this Saturday, 12 years ago, was the first Winning at Life show. I always kind of share that was first hour was that first show was kind of rough. I had hired a coach working with me to do it because I'd never done radio before, other than they had proposed and asked me to do a live show back then, a few months before the actual first show, and I actually, because it was going to be live and I was going to be taking callers, I kind of I just don't know that I'm prepared for that. And it, a few meetings, probably 6 weeks later, they had convinced me that I would be fine and I could do this. So that first show was kind of tough, and we did replay it a few years back, but it's forever banned from re-airing and locked up there. Even though it's an okay show, I just wasn't happy with my performance. But with 20 minutes left in that show, I got my footing, and we've been rolling ever since. And I'll tell you, the part of that decision, and I was sharing with Angie, which helps me here in my studio, is if I did decide to do the show, I knew I would probably be doing it for a long time, and it would be impacting my Saturdays for a long time. So And it has. It grew from an hour show into a 3-hour show because we've actually been on air since 10 o'clock this morning and we go to 1 o'clock. We have lots of markets that join in and out of this 3 hours. Our largest audience will be in the noon hour, which we reach just from radio towers, probably about the southeastern part of the United States there, to simplify that answer. But with how technology's grown over the years is the reaches. We stream around the globe, audio, and we're on Facebook Live and YouTube. You can watch us. You could reach out to us through the Winning at Life app, text, email, call the show through the app. And, heck, over the years, we've had calls from Canada. We've had calls from Europe. And I remember when Brexit happened, we were having conversations with people over in Europe talking about that because they would be actually watching the show and reach out to us regarding questions and thoughts on that from an investing standpoint. And Brexit turns out to be a big whoop. It's like what really wasn't that big a deal, like it was going to probably be disastrous to begin with. But if you want to join the conversation, and this is the magic of Winning at Life, is you, the callers, calling into the show over the years. Number one question has been the topic of Social Security. Second is probably investing, but that goes into so many areas. Really popular version of market questions probably have to do with 401ks, and we're here to give you help, give you guidance, help you improve. The core thing, I was asked recently, why did you do the show? Fundamentally, I wanted to get a message out there of how things can be different, that you do have other options, and I can explain it in a way. I'm kind of the storyteller guy. I like to tell stories. I have to be careful. Sometimes I'm about to break out into another story when somebody asks me something because I'm relating it to something else out there. And that is ultimately to provide you, the consumer, you, the listener, help and direction. And then over the years, it evolved into having show contributors of different types. And we've got 3 of them that are pretty consistent. Wes Blanchard, which is on with us right now. We also have Dwayne Stein that kind of I refer to, he's a spinoff show because after contributing to our show, he decided, I want to do a show, and he's host and founder of Mortgage Gumbo as well. And we have Jude Heath of J. Heath and Company CPAs that is a regular contributor, and these guys help our clients that come into my firm. In my day job, I'm founder, CEO of Gregory Ricks and Associates, the Total Wealth Authority. I am one of the wealth advisors on the team. I guess I would be defined as the overseeing wealth advisor at the firm. And it's one firm, one voice, my voice. Everything's a process. What you have is consistency, and you're working with teams of people at the firm, so you always have continuity. So, Wes Blanchard, how are you doing today? Welcome to Winning at Life on our 12th anniversary show.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. Doing really, really well this morning. 12 years. It's a long time. I still remember the first time I was on the show too, and a lot of the things you were just mentioning were going through my head too. It's that first speaking engagement. You're talking to everybody on the airwaves. You don't really get any immediate feedback. You really don't know kind of up from down, but it really works, and it's a fun time at the end of the day. People ask me about it all the time. How's it go? And I tell them, I say, guys, behind the scenes, we're having a good time. We're just having a good time. And that's really what it's about, So, yeah, we answer a lot of questions. We field a lot of calls. But it really is just about kind of having a good time and getting that information out there.
Yeah, we work together. We know each other well. So there's I always enjoy the conversations with you when we sit down and talk, and it's the same thing that translates to on air. And, you know, you do a lot of work on the estate planning side and succession side. So, you know, from you being a contributor to the show, where do you think the show's impacted you the most?
Yeah, I think it really is. It's about getting the information out there, right? And so when we get the clients into our room, they're more informed. And so, you know, I guess it's more. It sounds kind of selfish, but we have a more educated clientele. Typically, when they come into the room, their questions are a little more direct. You know, they're not kind of beating around the bush anymore. They've listened to the show, and it allows me to kind of get down to brass tacks pretty quickly, which is great for any attorney. But yeah, I would say that's where it's impacted us the most. It's efficiency at the end of the day. It's really nice.
Yeah. Did you have any particular topic on your mind to discuss this morning?
Succession's always my favorite. They really are, because there's just, you know, everybody kind of looks at those things and they don't really know how it's going to go. And I'm here to tell you, most of the time we can make it a pretty smooth process. But there's one topic in particular, you know, semi-related tangentially to successions, and it's sort of this co-ownership of property. And we've seen it. I don't really know what it is, but we've kind of got an influx of cases coming in where you have co-ownership of property between 2, 3, 4 people that don't necessarily want to do that. They don't want to own it, and they want to be bought out. Maybe the other folks can't afford to buy them out or just don't want to. And so we've kind of been working with a lot of clients more recently about trying to fix that situation. You know, having the other side understand that the law doesn't mandate that everybody owns this property together and fields all the different, you know, maintenance requests and things like that, taxes and insurance. It's not set up that way, you know, and that's something that is, I don't know why, but it's been something that has been really coming into the office more frequently.
This is because of succession, where people have inherited the accounts and now they have multiple owners, is what you're referring to.
That's right.
Okay, so sounds like you're having more of a conversation on the front end about maybe this is not the best way to handle it. I would think that if you're thinking of, you've got some property, whether it's just your residential property or if you've got more, and you're, well, I'm going to leave it to all the kids. You might want to have this discussion on the front end with the kids, and you might not just give over all your assets equally, but you might do some with some investments, some the real estate, you know, kind of make it fair, but they all maybe don't want to be partners in that house. Your thoughts?
That's right. That's right. And I kind of call it horse trading, but that's when we get the folks around the table. You know, you always talk about the pile of money on the table at that time, and that's kind of what we're doing. We're having that conversation, and I'm trying to direct it, trying to administrate it, and trying to get everyone at that table to understand that, hey, we can make everyone happy. And if you guys know that owning an account, owning a property together is not going to be your happiest situation, okay, let's fix this problem now. Because if you don't fix it now, it's more expensive to fix it later. And that's kind of what we're trying to wrap their brains around. And it really is one of those things, like you said, you're trying to fix the problem on the front end. It's a good talk. It's a tough talk, but it's very productive. It really is. And so, you know, especially on your side of things, man, you see these accounts come in and you know, do we want to have split ownership? Does one person want to roll this over? Does the other person want to cash out? And you say, hold on, take a step back, look at all the assets that we have. Can we just back out of this thing and make everyone happy?
I've seen times when it's been even worse when they're not communicating with each other. Somebody's gotten mad and just not wanting to talk, and they're in a logjam that's going to end up in court. Hey, if you've got a question about succession, 504-260-0995. We'll be back in a couple minutes. Concerned about market volatility, rising inflation, higher taxes? How could it impact you? Make sure you're still on track to reach your financial goals and win at retirement.
Wine, Wisdom, and Food with Gregory Ricks. Tuesday, June 14th or Wednesday, June 15th, 6:30 Fleming Steakhouse in Metairie. Reserve your seat now. 504-832-9200 or GregoryRiggs.com. Firm offers insurance services. Best advisory services offered through AE Wealth Management, LLC.
Need a home loan? Where do I go? That's easy. The dude known as Mortgage Gumbo. Education and options for you to see. Visit Snapson and say, Dad can, the cost is free. He'll get you a quote based on your needs. You'll tell your friends. It's such a breeze. Now try for yourself so you can see if purchasing or refinancing is right for thee. Visit Snapson and save. Dad can.
If you like money, you'll love the Winning at Life app. On the Winning at Life app, you can listen to the show live 6 days a week. And if we're not on at the moment, you can hear a replay of the latest episode of Winning at Life. Whether you're getting a late start on your retirement savings or keeping up with the financial news, Winning at Life with Gregory Ricks is there on demand. Hear the Winning at Life show on the Winning at Life app, your wallet's favorite app.
Half of estate planning is having a plan put together for your loved ones when you pass away. The other half of estate planning is dealing with someone else's plan when they pass away. Sometimes they have a great plan, but sometimes you need a little help. Don't leave your loved ones in a bind. Call me, and we'll make sure you have a plan. Hi, I'm Wes Blanchard, an estate planning attorney in Metairie. What's your plan? Find me at wjblanchardlaw.com.
The Ricks Report with Gregory Ricks.
If you do not have money set aside, you do not have retirement assets, you don't have significant savings, you think, well, when should I turn on Social Security? I'll answer that for you right now. You should probably work as long as you possibly can and as much as you can, because that means you defer Social Security as long as you can up to age 70. And you can keep working past that. That's fine. But age 70, you have to turn it on because you've maximized it there. And you've created the largest possible payment, and you're going to need all of that.
Winning at Life with Gregory Ricks, Saturday mornings at 10 on News Talk 99.5 WRNO. Find us on the Winning at Life app or GregoryRicks.com. Investment advisory services offered through AE Wealth Management, LLC.
Yeah, that's my girl in the passenger seat. Windows down, dancing around, causing a scene. That's my girl.
Hey, y'all. You're listening to Winning at Life, live financial news talk radio. We have Wes Blanchard, estate planning attorney, with us this hour. If you want to join the conversation, we'll make it easy for you. Call us, 504-260-0995. You can text, email, call us through the Winning at Life app, and email info@GregoryRicks.com. A little bit about me. Yeah, I'm CEO, founder of Gregory Ricks & Associates, a total wealth authority, wealth advisor at the firm. And we have 4 offices: Baton Rouge, Louisiana; Mandeville, Louisiana; Metairie, Louisiana, which is the New Orleans area, and over on Gulfport, Mississippi. If you're needing help from a financial planning standpoint, investing, income planning, if you're needing help from an estate planning standpoint, there's just one number to call to reach us at the office, and you'll get connected to whichever location or method of communication you prefer. The office number for all reasons is 504-832-9200. Email is info@GregoryRicks, and that's a way for you to reach out and connect to Wes Blanchard as well, as through that office number, 504-832-9200. 832-9200. And he meets with, you do meet, and I'll put this out there, that you meet with clients at our various offices, right, Wes?
We do. It makes it really easy. You know, oftentimes we're doing these back-to-back visits, right? They're kind of coming in to meet you guys, and they want to have a conversation with me as well. And we're all about convenience. You know, we can do Zoom meetings, of course. We can meet just about anywhere you want. But if everybody's taking the time out of their day, and we know people are busy, to come in and have that conversation, that is also somewhat of a, you know, a big step. We want to make it convenient too. We don't want to hassle you and have you come in, you know, 3-4 days. No, let's get it done, and we do meet at the office. It's very nice for everyone.
Yeah, and from a firm standpoint, my philosophy, I think it's really important that they meet with you. And one of the things I think is really important that creates that connection anyhow, whether or not, you know, if they still want to just let state law dictate how everything's spread, and if they live in a community property state, they want to be in committee meetings with the kids. You know, if you don't have create a will, well, there's one for you that the state's kind of already written. Would that be a correct statement?
I think that's fair.
Okay, that's fair. So here's one thing that I think is important, and a lot of people aren't quite aware of this, is IRAs, 401ks, those Roth accounts and so forth go by contract, which means a beneficiary designation. And another thing people don't realize, I was having a discussion with somebody about that this week, is like, how come my name's not on my husband's account? And I've had it vice versa before. Well, that's my money too. How do I get access to it, and so forth? So you see where that conversation was going. And under IRS rules and the way that's set up, it's an individual account. In essence, it's the worker's account, because you have to have earned income to contribute to an IRA, to a Roth, or to put money into your 401k. And you're not and just by the structure of it being set up, you're not given access to your spouse's qualified account, because we refer to all those things, the 403b, 457, 401ka, and or 401as, and thrift plans and such. Those are all individual accounts that are also called qualified accounts, because they have tax favored advantages. The money can be put in pre-tax and grow tax deferred, makes it qualified money. And that individual that's named on the account is the one that has control and say over the account. Here's the problem. You become that worker, that owner of that account reaches point in life, and let's say they become incapacitated. They get into an accident or dementia, something, whatever the situation, and you can think so many things, is because Jim Bob now has dementia, somebody's needing to make some changes and help with that account, and whether it's a spouse or an important family member, nobody has access to it but him. He's the only one that can give authorization. So if they have not done that, you can't access that money, and it like blows some people's minds, but that is how it works. And there's this thing I want you to explain that we do together, a document we create for people that are clients of my firm. Is we don't make them, but this is available for you, and it's a document that we include as a part of our planning, and that's a power of attorney. Could you talk to the audience about how that document works?
Yeah, so what it really is it's a solution, right? So we have a document that we've crafted, and you and I have worked together for many, many years at this point. And I tell you, and I tell all the clients the same thing. We see new things every year. We see it all the time. We can't predict the future, but we can definitely adapt that document to make sure that when these problems pop up, we can solve them. So, as these regulations change on an annual basis now, we update that document. And so we make sure at the end of the day that when that incapacity occurs, we've got a backup plan. We've got somebody who can jump right in, right? And that's kind of what we're making sure we can do. So if you want a recent example, look at what the market's doing, right? It's fluctuating up and down. It's going down mostly, but then it pops back up. And you think about someone who maybe became incapacitated right on the precipice of that, right on the edge. And maybe they wanted to go to cash, but they couldn't. Or maybe they wanted to move into a value stock and they couldn't. They're trying to find and hold their own money. Just keep it safe. If you're incapacitated and you can't reach your advisor to tell them what you want to do, what's the safest thing to do, they are beholden to what's there because you've already told them, hey, I'd like to do X, Y, and Z. That might change on a whim. It might change as the market changes. But if you can't explain to them that you need to move on, you need to make a change, they're not going to do anything because they can't do it. So this is what that power of attorney solves. It gives you and your loved ones the flexibility that even when the worst of things happens, you can at least make sure your money's safe, right? And that's the first step in any financial plan is going to be to making sure that you got somebody looking out for you. Obviously, you got a great advisory team, but you need to have flexibility. You need to make sure that you can move around and your family can help you do it.
Now, this is structured in two core ways. It can be an active POA or it can be activated based on, say, a health situation. Would that be accurate?
That's right. And I think that's a very, very good point. A lot of folks are hesitant to give that power of attorney away right away. And so we've crafted a way to make sure that everybody's happy. So it's not until you become incapacitated that this triggers. And we've got a clause in there that requires a doctor's opinion on that. It's not, hey, mom had a bad day and we're going to activate this power of attorney. No, that's not how it works. We're going to make sure that everybody agrees, things are changing and we need to make big changes. And so, you get a doctor's opinion and then that's when the power of attorney becomes activated.
Yeah, so I think that's an important document. And then, of course, if they're wanting to do other things like a will or trust and so forth, those things can be squared away at some point. You got to figure out what you got to do with all your stuff. Hopefully you're not one of those like on that show where those guys ride around looking people's buildings and barns and stuff full of stuff. I think it's called those pickers there. That's like, oh my gosh, it's too much stuff. Here's what I want to talk about in the next segment, and it's regarding the Secure Act. So we've got regulations, updated regulations that was released by the IRS on February 23rd of this year, and the effective date for the elimination of the stretch and the application of the 10-year rule is generally for deaths after December 31st of 2019, but that effective date is extended for 2 years for deaths after December 31st of 2021 for governmental plans, including certain 403B, 457 plans, and the thrift savings plans. Oh my gosh, this has gotten so complicated now. When I was at the conference going over all these changes, I'm like, oh my gosh, we're more important than ever for people to have planners that understand and an attorney that if they're doing trust and so forth to understand that. And I want to talk with you a little bit here on the show about the Secure Act regulations that the impact on trusts. So we're going to talk about that in the next segment. And it was only so deep we can get in the weeds here on the show, but we do want to talk about it so there's an awareness. You good with that, Wes?
Sounds great.
Okay. Oh, Wes excited like me. about this. We'll get through this and give you some reason that, we're not going to answer it all, but show you why you kind of might need to get us to help you. You're listening to Winning at Life with Gregory Ricks.
Ask Gregory is a financial podcast from the guys who bring you Winning at Life with Gregory Ricks. Learn the ins and outs, do's, don'ts, rules, and tools of the financial world. From rising inflation and higher taxes in retirement to market volatility, your 401k to your IRA, your pension to your Social Security to Medicare. Got a financial situation and you're not quite sure what to do? Ask Gregory. Ask Gregory is our new podcast with the financial topics broken down into specific little chunks. So if you have a financial situation or you just want to learn more about money, ask Gregory. Find the Ask Gregory podcast on the Winning at Life app, the iHeartRadio app, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcast, or wherever you get your podcast. Investment advisory services offered through AE Wealth Management, LLC. The firm is not affiliated with the U.S. government or any government agency.
What does your ideal retirement look like? Is it traveling the world, fishing whenever you want, spending time with the grandkids, or maybe you don't know yet? Hi, I'm Gregory Ricks. Let us help you plan the retirement you deserve. Give us a call or go to GregoryRicks.com to schedule a visit. We are Gregory Ricks and Associates, the Total Wealth Authority.
The firm provides insurance services, investment, and advisory services. Offered only by duly registered individuals through AE Wealth Management, LLC. AE Wealth Management, LLC. Gregory Ricks and Associates are not affiliated companies.
Concerned about market volatility, rising inflation, higher taxes? How could it impact you? Make sure you're still on track to reach your financial goals and win at retirement.
Wine, Wisdom, and Food with Gregory Ricks. Tuesday, June 21st and Thursday, June 23rd, 6:30, Keith Young Steakhouse in Madisonville. Reserve your seat now. 504-832-9200 or GregoryRicks.com. Firm offers insurance services. Advisory services offered through AE Wealth Management, LLC.
We are living in historic times, extraordinary times. A lot of people need help right now, and I want you to remember your local food bank. Now, here in New Orleans, it's Second Harvest Food Bank. Over in Mobile, they've got Feeding the Gulf. But you can find your local food bank, feedingamerica.org. Food donations, monetary donations, or I know you've got some free time. Find your local food bank. Support your local food bank, especially in times like this. Do some good. feedingamerica.org.
Fox News, I'm Karen McHugh. Reaction to the Biden administration's calls for stricter gun regulation in the wake of recent mass shootings, the Republican Attorney General of Oklahoma wonders if both sides will ever find common ground.
I think there is room for common ground, but I think we need to look at where the real culprit is. The real culprit's not a gun. The real culprit is either criminals or people who either long-term or temporarily are dealing with depression or some type of mental illness.
John O'Connor on Fox. Across the pond, it's day 3 of the Queen's Diamond Jubilee.
So far this weekend, we've seen the Trooping of Color military parade, a flyover, a beacon lighting ceremony, and a church service. There's also a pageant tomorrow and a concert tonight with performers who are just as excited.
Fox's Alex Hogan, the longest reigning British monarch, Elizabeth II, has been on the throne for 70 years. America is listening to Fox News.
Winning at Life with Gregory Ricks is a copyright of Down South Strategies for the private use of our audience. Any unauthorized use of this broadcast without express consent is prohibited. For podcasts, show information, and contacts to our sponsors, go to winningatlife.com or download the Winning at Life app. If you have a financial situation and you're not quite sure what to do, you better call Gregory. We are Winning at Life with Gregory Ricks.
Hey, y'all. A little bit of Train there on the intro. I really like that band. They always bring it. I love watching them perform. You're listening to Winning at Life. Live Financial News Talk Radio. I'm your host, Gregory Ricks. We have Wes Blanchard, estate planning attorney this hour. Get your phones out. Give a call. If you've got a succession situation, Hey, here's one. You've named your IRA beneficiary a trust. I'm just going to share with you, you might have a problem called taxes. Wes, could that be a problem?
That's generally an issue, yeah.
Yeah, the trusts are tax rates. Their tax is ordinary income. And here's the trust tax rates for 2022. 10%. First 10%. That tax bracket is $0 to $2,750. The next tax bracket escalates up to 24% for $2,751 through $9,850. It's $9,850. The next tax bracket, see, you're already under $10,000 and you've already pushed to the 35% tax bracket at $9,851 through $13,450. No, this is not like individual rates. This is trust tax brackets. And everything going into that trust, if it's going to be inside that trust and taxed, everything over $13,450 is taxed at 37%. So, yeah, you might have a problem if you've named your beneficiary as a trust. So I'm going to talk about some things here. Wes will give his thoughts on this, and I think I think Wes is okay letting me run through this a little bit. He knows I'm very versed. You good with that, Wes?
Of course.
Okay. Trusts are downgraded as a planning strategy after the Secure Act. Yeah, we were kind of disappointed with that, and I'm sure Wes will agree. And the new Secure Act regulations do not change that. The most trust beneficiaries will still need to empty an inherited IRA in 10 years. Now, what we're talking about, for the most part, non-spouse beneficiaries. This is somebody other than a spouse. Say, your kids of adult age without disabilities. Because there's some exceptions to the rule, but for the most part, it's non-spouse beneficiaries that are adults without disabilities. We'll simplify it at that. Now, the Secure Act, however, the regulations do clear up some of the confusion the Secure Act has created in areas of trust. They also attempt to answer some longstanding questions regarding trust that have come up in many private letter rulings over the years. And that's one of the core things of that coaching program and conference I go to a couple times a year. A lot of what goes on and creates guidelines for us to understand going forward is the private letter rulings, where they make decisions and determinations, and that, that would be law going forward, right, Wes?
That's right. It's always something you have to keep up on. Hopefully it's not changing at the pace it has been over the last couple of years. But look, these retirement plans they're shifting. They're shaping up differently as we're kind of moving into this new era. So it's good to have a guy like you obviously putting the information out there, but you have to know what that means for planning as well.
Yeah, and just everybody's not versed on this to this extent. Now, here's an important thing. See-through trust rules remain. In the proposed regulations, the IRS keeps the existing see-through or look-through trust rules for trusts under which trust beneficiaries can be treated as beneficiaries of an IRA if the trust meets certain requirements. So if you're using a trust, or if an attorney's using a trust for a beneficiary of an IRA, it has to be a see-through trust. And to qualify what the IRS refers to as see-through trust for IRA distribution purposes, the trust must meet the following requirements. Number one, and I'm going to go over 4 here. Number one, the trust is valid under state law or would be for the fact that there is no corpus. What does that mean, Wes?
Corpus is principal. That's what you're talking about.
Okay. So you understand that. Number two, the trust is irrevocable, or the trust contains language to the effect it becomes irrevocable upon the death of the IRA owner or plan participant. Number three of four, the beneficiaries of the trust who are beneficiaries with respect to the trust's interests in the IRA's owners or plan participants' benefit are identifiable. So you have to have identifiable beneficiaries. The required trust document has been provided by the trustee of the trust to the custodian or plan administrator no later than October 1st. I'm sorry, I gave the wrong date. It's October 31st of the year following the year of the owner's death. That's a hard deadline that can't be broken. So they've got to be notified of the trust. Is that what that says, the documentation?
That's right.
Okay. In addition to the above requirements, all trust beneficiaries must be individuals, or there could be no designated beneficiary in the IRA, and the stretch option could be lost. So that's in essence kind of blowing up the plan in that case. And the common error I've seen, and you can elaborate on what you've seen, but when we see this, when somebody's trying to change a beneficiary that's a client of our firm that we're helping them with their money, when we see beneficiary changes all of a sudden pop up, it gets us to ask questions, especially when it's in a trust, like, are you aware of these rules? Because what we find, and there was a few cases last year where we had discussions and then they realized this was being done wrong and it was going to be a taxable event. When you're dead, you don't know what's going to happen. But if I see it going, if you're doing planning in a way that's going to cause that event when you die, yeah, we're going to make you aware of it. And the problem is they set up a trust for this purpose thinking it's going to work, but it's not a see-through trust. Your thought?
That's a huge issue. It's a huge issue. You know, a lot of folks say they have we call it testamentary trust, but they set up a trust in their will, and then they fund this trust with IRA or 401k proceeds, not realizing that, sure, you can leave it to a trust, but there's regulations, there are guidelines on that. And so the 10-year rule is the biggest one. A lot of folks don't understand that, you know, it's only for 10 years. You have to pay it out. You have to fund the trust. And so the growth is capped, but there's also a taxable issue if you're using what I call just a basic testamentary trust, where you're setting guidelines about when they can access the money, how they can access the money, what it's used for. That's kind of your basic trust. You really need to have someone working on that plan that understands this side of things. And frankly, if you aren't interacting with financial professionals on a regular basis, I think it's going to be difficult for you to really grasp that. Your everyday sort of will drafting attorney probably isn't on the up and up about things like this.
Yeah, and I'm going to elaborate a little bit further here, because if you're utilizing a trust and it's not a pass-through, then it's a non-qualifying trust. And here's the RMD rules for that. If a trust does not qualify as a see-through trust, then the IRA will be treated as if there is no designated beneficiary. And the post-death payout will be based on the rules that apply when there is no designated beneficiary. A non-designated beneficiary, those rules require an IRA funds to be paid out to the trust based on whether the IRA owner or plan participant died before or after the required beginning date. The required beginning date is April 1st, after the year of their 72nd birthday. And there's more problems coming. We're going to pause for a minute, let you absorb this. We've got Charles in Mandeville. We're going to take his call coming up when we jump out the break, but this is kind of see why you might need me and Wes helping you out. Here's the number, 504-260-0995. You're listening to Winning at Life.
If you've got a financial situation and you're not quite sure what to do, you better call Gregory.
One of the things I'm going to find out is, what do you think you're going to need a month to continue your lifestyle? And if they're not sure, I say, well, what are you spending now? Because I don't think it's going to be a whole lot different. One thing I'll suggest is you need to do a little bit of homework. You need to go look at your outflow from your checking account the past 6 months. Now, sometimes people will pay their bills on a quarterly basis, or, well, I pay my insurance once a year on the house. Well, go back a year and average it out to see what you're needing to pay. And then you have a handle, because now that tells me the net number. So now we have to go back, look at your overall income need. Where does that fit in tax brackets, and get to a gross number?
Call Gregory Ricks and Associates, 504-832-9200 or GregoryRicks.com. Investment advisory services offered through AE Wealth Management, LLC.
When I was growing up, my mom relied on old wives' tales to get rid of outdoor bugs. One method included putting 2 pennies in a bag of water and hanging them throughout the backyard. And let's not forget Mom's go-to, the citronella candle, which never worked. It's the 20s. We have science and much more thorough ways to get rid of bugs. Call Mosquito Joe. Mosquito Joe has this time-release capsule that they spray that slowly releases their mosquito death over a course of a month. Because mosquitoes suck. NewOrleans.MosquitoJoe.com.
Ask Gregory is a financial podcast from the guys who bring you Winning at Life with Gregory Ricks. Learn the ins and outs, do's, don'ts, rules, and tools of the financial world. So if you have a financial situation or you just want to learn more about money, ask Gregory. Find the Ask Gregory podcast on the Winning at Life app or wherever you get your podcast. Investment advisory services offered through AE Wealth Management, LLC. The firm is not affiliated with the U.S. government or any government agency.
The Ricks Report with Gregory Ricks.
Here to make you rich. I'm here to make sure you don't run out of money, that you don't run out of income. That's how I look at my job. Over time, saving, making good decisions can make you rich. But what you have is, what is your core thing? Your core thing should be making money. And your core thing, you should set aside money to work elsewhere. It doesn't necessarily mean you have to put it to risk. You could put it to safety. But your core thing makes you money, or you tell me your core thing is the market, day trading, or gambling in the market. It shouldn't be. You should have a core thing that makes you money, and you peel some off for the future when you're done with your core.
Winning at Life with Gregory Ricks, Saturday mornings at 10 on News Talk 99.5 WRNO. Find us on the Winning at Life app or GregoryRicks.com. Investment advisory services offered through AE Wealth Management, LLC.
And a little bit of chicken fried.
Welcome back to Winning at Life, live financial news talk radio. I'm your host, Gregory Ricks. I've got Wes Blanchard, estate planning attorney, with me. We're going to move quickly here and wrap up this part of the discussion. We've got a couple callers lined up as well. But what we were talking about this hour as the core topic with Wes is regarding trust rules when you name your IRA beneficiary a trust. At the core, it has to be a see-through trust. If it's not, then it's a non-qualifying trust. Then there's rules. And the rules break down that it's treated as a non-designated beneficiary. I mean, you don't have a beneficiary in essence. Now, if you die before the required beginning date, that means April 1st after the year of the 72nd birthday. So if the owner dies before the RBD, the account must be withdrawn. Here, get this. If the owner dies before the RBD, the account must be withdrawn by the end of the 5th year after death. The 5-year rule. There are no annual RMDs during the 5-year window. If the owner dies after RBD, RMDs must be taken over the deceased IRA owners or plan participants' remaining single life expectancy. That's called the ghost life rule. Conduit and discretionary trust, when determining which trust beneficiaries must be considered for payout to the trust, the proposed regulations keep the existing rules for conduit and discretionary trust. Conduit trust, this type is merely a conduit to pass distributions from the IRA to the trust beneficiary. When the conduit trust is a beneficiary of an IRA, the post-death distributions are first paid from the IRA to the trust, then immediately from the trust to the beneficiaries of the trust. No IRA distributions remain in the trust. The beneficiaries of the trust then pay taxes on those distributions at their own personal income tax rates. And remember, a few minutes ago, I gave you those tax rates. So if there's money in a trust over $13,450, it's going to be taxed at 37%. Pretty hefty charge there. Anything to add before we jump to the callers, Wes?
No, I think that tax rate point was really what I was going to get at, too. It's important to understand that when you're holding money in a trust and it makes that money, it's taxed significantly. So you really want to pass it through if you can.
So a couple rules there I'll throw in there, that you should check beneficiary designations every year in case there's been life events that would cause you to change that. And we could have a whole show just on that topic. And if you have a trust that's a beneficiary of your IRA, you need to have that reviewed forthwith. That's like now, soon as possible out there. And I'll think then you'll find out where you stand and if you're in good shape, or you might need to make some changes going forward. So who we got up first here? Charles, in that case. Hey, Charles gave us a call at 504-260-0995. Charles, welcome to Winning at Life. How can we help you?
Hi there. My question is on federal tax, is there a limit on how much medical expenses you can deduct?
I can't answer that for you. If we had old Jude Heath on the show today, but that's a question. Wes, do you have an answer for that?
That's not something that's on my radar either.
No, that's something I would actually have to research regarding limits on that, because that's actually expensing, deductions and such from that standpoint. But Charles, if you called the office on Monday, we could help you with that. Go ahead.
Okay. One more thing, please.
Okay.
Is if one dies and inherits an I bond, is the interest still tax deferred for the new person?
I would assume it is. I can't give you an absolute on that, but I think the website is treasury.gov, gives you a lot of information on that as well. I'll give that website out again in a moment because I may have just given it wrong. But if you call the office, we can get those answers for you because we'll connect with the right people to take care of you that, Charles.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Appreciate it.
Have a great day, great weekend. Let's go to Danny calling from Metairie. I think you might, Danny, welcome to Winning at Life. How can we help you?
Well, I heard you talking about that 37%, and it's freaking me out a little bit.
It would me too.
My wife died a few years ago, and I'm getting ready to sell the house. Of course, the house is in a trust, and I'm being told I need to open up an account at a bank in a trust name. Is that going to be taxed, the profit on the house, at 37%?
Wes?
Yeah, I mean, so it depends, I guess, on how the trust is titled. It's one of those things where ideally it's not. If it's a revocable trust, then you're not going to have much of an issue. The way we set ours up is such that, you were inheriting from your wife and it's inside a revocable trust, so you're not going to face that problem. But if it's held inside an irrevocable trust, you're kind of right on the edge of that tax rate. Now, it really, it's difficult to answer your question clearly without knowing what that trust says. But it's definitely something you want to know the answer to. You need to have a good look at that trust document, and I probably would be able to tell you if I was able to get a glance at it for you.
Okay. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's a revocable trust.
Oh, that helps. Yeah.
Yeah. Is there a page in the documents that would say revocable or irrevocable? Maybe.
Yeah, ours does it on the first page, just so no one has that anxiety reading through 35, 40 pages. But yeah, we do that right on the front page. Typically, if you're doing estate planning for a couple, you're generally doing a revocable trust. Sometimes, you kind of get into that irrevocable issue, but you're looking at trying to kind of cap some of your expenses and use Medicaid and things like that. It's not typically a scenario we recommend. It sounds to me like you guys are probably in a revocable situation, so you might be in good shape.
Yeah, I think I remember hearing that. So, yeah, I mean, we're young enough, I'm still young enough, but in my mid-50s, so it's not like we have a lot of Medicaid or Medicare issues. So, okay. I feel a little better about it. Thank you.
Good.
Awesome.
Hope you have a better weekend now. Yeah.
All right.
Awesome.
Bye.
Yeah, it's once again thinking about that. And sometimes, we've had discussions on past shows about putting homes in trusts, and there needs to be a pause on that because of certain situations that can arise. Let's go ahead and take Paul from Hammond. Welcome to Winning at Life. How can we help you today?
Gregory, thank you for taking my call. Real quick, I'm 60 years old. We just sold my house and moved into my mother-in-law's house because she's not able to live by herself anymore. And I got a little over $100,000 in equity, and we want to put it somewhere where it's low risk and fluid, because we still plan on building another house. We don't want to lock it in on anything. Do you have any suggestions? We're thinking about CDs, but we don't have to lock it in. And right now, I'm old enough where I can't wait on the stock market to rebound if something should happen. So.
Yeah, so when you say...
And also...
Go ahead.
Also, I was wanting your opinion on those I-bonds, real quick. Go ahead.
Yeah, well, I-bonds are paying a pretty good rate at this point. The max you can put in is $10,000 per person per year. And
that's per year? Okay.
Yeah. From that standpoint, and the earlier callers asking something about taxable, and yeah, the savings bond interest is subject to federal income tax, but not state or local income tax. So if somebody inherits that, you die, somebody's got to pay the taxes on it. So the tax is going to have to be paid. Just because somebody dies doesn't waive the government getting their money. So from the standpoint of putting money to work somewhere conservatively, when you kind of say, well, a CD, well, what length of time are you buying this bank CD for?
Maximum 2 years. We plan on building another house hopefully within 2 years.
Yeah, well, it is short-term money, and that's probably the direction you should go for short-term money. So that way you're not exposed to risk. Because if you've designated, hey, I've got this $200,000, I'm needing it for this property, do not invest it anywhere that would cause you a fee to exit. You may have a fee to exit that CD early, but don't put it in a risk investment because it could go down and you might not have $200,000 there in that case. Does that help you?
Well, plus we're going to keep piling money on it. So if I put in a CD, I can't add to the CD, correct? I have to.
Yeah, but
so we're going to keep
hopefully build a
home.
You're not getting a lot of yield there, to be honest with you, Paul, and there's not going to be some big hit that you can make. This is short-term money, and if you get some yield added to it, add to it. This money has another purpose already designated for it. It's not 5-year money. It's not 10-year money. So thanks for calling. Thanks for trusting us, giving you some guidance there. And everybody, thank you for listening to Winning at Life. The show's going to continue another hour. We're going to be taking a 6-minute break. Wes won't be with us, but Wes, thank you for being on the show today. And anybody that's needing help with Wes or myself, one number to call for any office, any meeting, any phone call, any Zoom, 504-832-9200. The website's GregoryRicks.com. We'll be back in a few minutes.
From the Gregory Ricks Associates Wealth Management Studios, WRNO-FM, New Orleans, an iHeart radio station.
The formula can't be made fast enough. I'm Pam Huso, Fox News. Production is up and running again at a baby formula plant in Michigan.
The reopening of this plant is a step in the right direction, but it's not a quick fix to the baby formula shortage. Abbott will start making EleCare formula today and says some of that will be available to customers as early as June 20th. That specialty brand was not part of the voluntary recall in mid-February. The company hasn't told us when it'll start making the two brands that were recalled, but once it does, Abbott says it could take up to 2 months before the product hits store shelves.
Fox's Grady Trimble. Filling up the gas tank is costing more today than it did yesterday, 5 cents a gallon more. AAA says the national average price for a gallon of regular is $4.81. An update out of Phoenix where gunfire sent people running overnight.
Many rounds were shot into this crowd of people.
Sergeant Andy Williams, 9 people were shot at a strip mall. According to Fox 10, a female victim died. A West Virginia sheriff's deputy was shot and killed last night. A second deputy was hurt while responding to an incident at a home. One suspect is charged with murder. Police say a second suspect was killed in the shootout. Compromise on gun legislation is being sought in the Senate. Oklahoma's Republican Attorney General John O'Connor is confident common ground can be found.
The real culprit's not a gun. The real culprit is either criminals or people who either long-term or temporarily are dealing with depression or some type of mental illness.
The renewed push for congressional action comes after the school shooting in Uvalde, Texas that killed 21 people. America's listening to Fox News.
Jason in the House, the Jason Chaffetz podcast. There is always someone doing something stupid somewhere. Dive deeper than the headlines and the party lines as I take on American life, politics, and entertainment. Join me, Jason Chaffetz, every Wednesday as I shed light on the news and make some predictions along the way. You never know who will drop in. Subscribe now on foxnewspodcast.com or wherever you download podcasts.
Connect to Fox News Audio and the Fox News app. Listen to hear your favorite hosts like Brian Kilmeade, Jimmy Fallon, and Guy Benson standing up for what's right, live and via podcast. Just click listen, then swipe right and hear the latest news updates on your time. And scroll down to hear the latest podcasts from Fox News. And it's even easier to listen in the car with Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. Get programming alerts and notifications. Fox News Audio is on the Fox News app. The voices America trusts. Download it now.
South Florida is getting a soaking. What could become Tropical Storm Alex later today is flooding roadways in Miami. First responders there have carried out more than 100 water rescues.
Luckily, so far, there have been no injuries, so we're happy about that. We were able to get to everyone quickly. We prepared for this. We had additional resources.
Police Lieutenant Pete Sanchez. In Cuba, the storm is being blamed for 2 deaths. Lately, it's been a seller's market, and that's especially true for the Boy Scouts.
Be prepared is the motto of the Boy Scouts of America. But in the wake of declining numbers following numerous lawsuits relating to child sexual abuse claims, the organization has been forced to pay compensation to thousands of victims. In order to meet those mounting penalties, the BSA is preparing to divest themselves of much of the property that has been accumulated over the decades. It's estimated that the Scouts own up to 2,000 campgrounds that could be worth as much as $10 billion. Conservationists, government officials, and other interested parties are now scrambling to find ways of preserving those parcels as open space. Local land trusts are working with state and federal officials to find the funds to purchase a lot of that land before developers can get their hands on it. Karen McHugh, Fox News.
More celebrations in Britain in honor of Queen Elizabeth's 70 years on the throne.
So far this weekend, we've seen the Trooping of Color military parade, a flyover, a beacon lighting ceremony, and a church service. There's also a pageant tomorrow and a concert tonight with performers who are just as excited. A lot of the streets here are closed for street parties. Stores and streets are decorated. People are still sending their well wishes and giving all of their respect to this monarch who has now led for 7 decades.
Fox's Alex Hogan in London. I'm Pam Puso, and this is Fox News.
Ask Gregory is a financial podcast from the guys who bring you Winning at Life with Gregory Ricks. Something that's come up on the show over the last 10 years is that if you're not at your old job, maybe your 401k shouldn't be either. But do you really know why we say that? It's a funny thing. We put a few $100 in our 401k every month. It ends up to be thousands of dollars every year, hundreds of thousands of dollars over our career, and you don't really know that much about it. How do you invest it? How do you diversify? What do you buy? What do you avoid? You've got a financial situation and you're not quite sure what to do. Ask Gregory. Ask Gregory is our new podcast with these financial topics broken down into specific little chunks. So if you have a financial situation or you just want to learn more about money, ask Gregory. Find the Ask Gregory podcast on the Winning at Life app or wherever you get podcasts. Investment advisory services offered through AE Wealth Management, LLC. The firm is not affiliated with the U.S. government or any government agency.
Welcome to Winning at Life. Live financial news talk radio. I'm your host, Gregory Ricks. This is a special day. 12 years anniversary. This Saturday, 12 years ago, was the first Winning at Life radio show with Gregory Ricks. Woohoo! We're not doing anything special other than talking to you about that, giving you a little bit of backstory, but this is a financial show. I'm in the financial industry. I'm a CEO, founder of Gregory Ricks and Associates, the Total Wealth Authority, a wealth advisor designation at the firm as well, and we have a team of people that assist individuals, families in making better financial decisions, work towards improving their success on the financial path to reach that designation. We work in income planning, investment planning, healthcare planning, tax planning, estate planning, cash management, risk management, and I can go on. There's probably about 10 core areas. I think I gave you 7 of them right there. We help people with about 60 different things that we can do, and then we have teams of support. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about how I see the industry structure and how firms are structured, and how I think there's a better way. I'm going to share that with you in this hour. And I've got a few other topics I'm going to give you, but let me stick right here with the 12-year anniversary theme. So I gave you a quick background on me. Why should I be in this chair, or why can I be in this chair? And I don't know, it was somewhere, let's say, I'll call it neighborhood of 12 and a half years ago, the idea came up about doing a radio show. And I kind of mentioned, yeah, I'd have an interest in doing that. Then a little bit time passed, and then a couple of gentlemen came back to talk to me and said, yeah, our firm wants you, and they work for a radio company with lots and lots and lots of stations, and came back with the idea that, hey, we've got this opening and we would like you to do a live radio show. So I thought that was kind of a neat idea, but it worried me, like, live? Yes, we want you to do it live. And you'll take callers too. And I'm like, oh, really? Just call and ask me anything? So that was a little bit concerning. I don't know if I was prepared for that. And keep this in mind, I'd never, ever done a radio show or been on one ever in my life. And I was like, no, I don't think I'm prepared to do this. And here's the thing. They didn't take no for an answer. And a gentleman flew up from Miami for a meeting. He had called me and said, look, let's just get you down station, meet a lot of the people. You can see what's going on there and such. And he was there as well for that meeting. And by the end of that meeting, they had convinced me to go forward. And I had a few people working for me then, and they thought I was kind of nuts for doing it. But part of that decision that I had to process is it was going to be Saturday morning radio show. It's just an hour show, not a biggie deal, but an hour. It's going to be live, so I always had to be there, and it's Saturday morning every Saturday. And knowing how I think and do things meant if I go forward with that, I'm going to be doing this for a long time, provided they don't kill the show because I'm horrible at it. So I agreed to go forward. I hired a radio coach that worked with me for a few months on it because I knew I had to have coaching to get better at being put on the spot, on the air, live, and also take callers and answer questions, provide content, make it a valuable show, maybe improve my storytelling, and such as that. So that first show, which was 12 years ago today, was kind of like, it was kind of tough. We've replayed it a couple times over the 12 years, but it's kind of been locked away for no replay. Again, I was not proud of my first hour, but honestly, the best part of that show was the last 20 minutes where I kind of got my footing, and we've been rolling ever since. And it's just, gosh, live on the air every Saturday. And yeah, now we've been doing it for 12 years. 6 years ago, by another of management suggestion is, why don't you do a weeknight show? And I said, well, look, I'll tell you what, I'll do a 6-month run on it. Finally, once I absorbed it, I said, well, let's do a 6-month test to see if I can do that on weeknights every night. So it's another obligation. And I said, then I'll agree to do a contract going forward. But we're going to start with a 6-month one that I can opt out of in case this doesn't work well. So we ended up doing it for 6 years, the weeknight show, and that show ended by my request because they didn't want to end it and they wanted me to keep going. But last fall, I kind of reached a point, I think I want my weeknights back, and so I asked to end the show, and finally they did agree, and we ended the weeknight show, the Daily Wrap, this past December. So I'm going to be with you for years to come as I see it now and here for you every Saturday. For clarity, I do a best of once a month to have a Saturday off, and I think that's fair. After 12 years, we do that, but we bring you some of the best content that we create each month. Otherwise, we're live on air right now, and we can take your calls. We had a bunch of calls last hour, and this is for all of those, and a lot of stations have joined us this hour. So this is hour 3 of the 3-hour show that starts at 10 o'clock every Saturday morning, and you can download the Winning at Life app to text, email, call the show through the app. GregoryRicks.com in the media tab is more about the show, or go to winningatlife.com and it will take you directly to that page. If you're wanting to join the conversation, and we had a whole bunch of callers the last segment there, man, it was kind of like speed questioning. There's how that went. Done that so many times over the years. Angie's here helping me in studio on Saturday mornings. And I remember years ago, all of a sudden, we're in the studio downtown and the board lit up and a lot of callers, and there was only a few minutes left. and I'm pushing the button and taking the calls. Back then I had control over that. And I could see her panicking and doing the circle. You got to speed it up. And I got all the callers, got them all answered, and we went to break to be off the air at that point. So I've got a bunch of information to cover with you the remainder of this hour, and I'm really appreciative that you joined us on our 12th anniversary show. If you want to call 504-260-0995, you're listening to Winning at Life. Concerned about market volatility, rising inflation, higher taxes? How could it impact you? Make sure you're still on track to reach your financial goals and win at retirement.
Wine, Wisdom, and Food with Gregory Ricks. Tuesday, June 14th or Wednesday, June 15th, 6:30 Fleming Steakhouse in Metairie. Reserve your seat now. 504-832-9200 or GregoryRicks.com. Firm offers insurance services. Best advisory services offered through AE Wealth Management, LLC.
Gumbo Nation, this is Dwayne Stein. My team and I make dreams come true daily. Buying a home could seem stressful if working with the wrong lender. Mortgage Gumbo removes that with our exclusive pre-approval process called Fast Track. Don't let other lender horror stories scare you, like last-minute turndowns leaving you homeless. Get your exact buying power so you can shop with confidence. When buying a home, you don't want a lender right most of the time. With Fast Track, we get it right all the time. Visit snapsendandsave.com.
If you like money, you'll love the Winning at Life app. On the Winning at Life app, you can hear the Ask Gregory podcast, where you'll find episodes based on a financial topic. So if you're looking for help on a specific situation, there's a good chance you'll find it on the Ask Gregory podcast, including episodes on 401ks, taxes, stocks, Social Security, gold, and whether or not you should buy an RV. Hear the Ask Gregory podcast on the Winning at Life app, your wallet's favorite app.
2 questions. Do you have a pulse? Do you own anything? If you said yes to both, you probably need a will. You may even need a trust. We all know a lawyer. Do you know someone who specializes in estate planning? Do you really trust the husband of your sister's friend from college? Or would you feel better putting your family in the hands of the estate planning attorney of the Total Wealth Authority? I'm Wes Blanchard. What's your plan? Offices in Metairie and at wjblanchardlaw.com.
The Ricks Report with Gregory Ricks.
What we found through history, looking at the past 90 years, most fund managers don't outperform or perform as well as the indexes. Using indexing, historicals teach us skew a higher return. And yes, there's bad stocks in the S&P 500 as it looks right now, and yet the index is up. I like to use index ETFs because those are much lower expense ratios. We try our best in managing our portfolios to avoid trading costs, and we know I've been doing this for 30 years. I've studied trading strategies. You're not going to outsmart the indexes. You may get lucky, you may get unlucky.
Winning at Life with Gregory Ricks, Saturday mornings at 10 on News Talk 99.5 WRNO. Find us on the Winning at Life app or GregoryRicks.com. Investment advisory services offered through AE Wealth Management, LLC.
We ain't playing nothing slow at the parking lot party. The tailgate buzz is just sipping on suds. Ain't never.
Hey, y'all. Welcome back. Thanks for being with me on my 12th anniversary show of being host of Winning at Life Radio, live financial news talk. And, you know, as primary function in the financial world, I'm a wealth advisor, CEO, founder of Gregory Ricks and Associates, the Total Wealth Authority. We have offices in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, Mandeville, Louisiana, Metairie, Louisiana. That's the New Orleans area, and Gulfport, Mississippi. But we have phone systems, so we can take calls from anywhere around the country. We help people across the country, and with technology, it's kind of like we can sit in front of computers and see each other and talk, through the Zoom meetings, which are pretty cool to be able to do. I do a lot of training and coaching through that function as well. But, I am kind of old school. I like sitting across the kitchen table and The thing about our offices is we want you to feel comfortable. It's kind of, when my wife Stacy kind of laid everything out, is, you know, the one thing I said, I just want people to feel comfortable, kind of like they're coming over to our house or sitting in our living room, you know, or at our kitchen table. In essence, every conference room has that function and that feel. There's a corner chair with a blanket on it if you needed a blanket, and everything smells fresh. But you're sitting at a table like you're at a breakfast table or something in your home, and that's what we use for that setting, for you to be very comfortable. There's a limit on the length of the meetings there. You're not going to be there forever because, you know, we're kind of that busy firm. It's like going to a busy restaurant. They want to get you fed, get you taken care of, and get you on your way so somebody else can come in. So, you know, we kind of limit meetings to an hour so you're not having to camp out. And if you're needing to be out of there early, just let us know. It's okay there, and nobody's expecting you to do anything that you want to. It's not a sales process, it's a relationship process. If we can add value, if we're a fit for you and you're a fit for us as a client, and we can add value, yeah, we're willing to go forward, work with you, and help you. And nobody's going to force or make you or force you into a decision. So if you've got a financial situation, you want to join the show's conversation, and that's the magic of this show over the past 12 years, whether it's about Social Security, taxes, investing, what to do with that 401k. And I'm going to help you with one of those topics here. You know, you had that 401k at a job 30 years ago, don't remember? I'm going to talk about that. And give you some help. So any of these topics, 504-260-0995. And I've got a white paper for you. You know, there's something you can download and read a little bit with the market doing some of the things. There's a lot of concerns. How about download this? GregoryRicks.com/downturn. Yeah, GregoryRicks.com/downturn to kind of get you started on a conversation. Here's what this is a story that we now talk to somebody about every person that comes in for a meeting, whether it's a first meeting, a second, a third, an annual strategy meeting. We talk conceptually about how the industry works, and I think that's important for you to understand. In the financial advisory world, most firms are small firms, or even if it's one of those big banks or firms, well-known names, it's still individualized small operations inside of that, where you're connected to an advisor, an assistant, and maybe there's a few other people helping behind the scenes, but it also gives you that small firm feel. The problem with that is if that person leaves, who are you going to be dealing with? If who's assisting that? What if they're on vacation? What if they're ill? You know, what else are you connected to there? And I think that's a problem. And it also, the way the industry is built is an advisor is bringing on clients, and he's also got to service those clients. And at some point, he's brought on enough clients that most of his time is filled up with servicing. Or if he's brought on too many clients, he can't really get to everybody from a functional standpoint and to keep them happy. And from an annual strategy meeting standpoint, is that's one or more times a year, depending on the client and their needs. I think that's broken. That is a broken system. We're changing that system for the better going forward. And we've been working on this a while, and I'm going to share with you my thinking and why. I think you should have a hub of people that are connected to you. yeah, we've had the great resignation impact this, but we were already working to recruit and hire and build up for this to this point. So we had a number of people leave. It created a little bit of disruption. But here's how I see it should be. And let's talk about wealth advisors first. I think there's two different types of wealth advisors. I think there's those that are comfortable and good at starting a relationship and helping them move the process of becoming a client at a firm. Then there's the type of wealth advisor that really is good at continuing the relationship, building the relationship, and always working through the changes and what's upcoming. The first one's not so much on the relationship side. If they're good at both, then they are going to work themselves out of the front end part because they've got to service everybody. If they're really good at bringing on people, they're going to and like that best, and they're doing both sides. They're working themselves out of what they enjoy doing best. Here's how I see a better structure. And I don't consider us a giant firm, but we're a big firm as the industry goes. And the structure, I think, is the best way going forward, where there is a hub of people for you to work with. And I think that involves two wealth advisors. It involves an analyst. It also involves two service people. Why? It's continuity of service, continuity of relationships. And if somebody moves out of that hub to another or leaves the firm or gets promoted up, you still have those other people, and a new person is added in to that group that looks out for you. And you have communication amongst all those people and familiarity. Because you could also have a situation where you're needing help and the wealth advisors are booked, but you can be taken care of because the overall team is involved. And I oversight all hubs, all wealth teams in going forward. So you're not having to deal with new people, different situations. And another thing about the small firms and the way most out there are doing things, everybody's got a different philosophy. They're doing different types of investments and stuff. And at Gregory Ricks and Associates, the Total Wealth Authority, it is one firm, one voice, one philosophy, and one process. Everybody follows the process. So in the hub, whoever you're talking to, it is consistency. Just like the other hubs at the firm, they're all having the same conversations. They're all using the same process. For investments, it's all the same models. It's the 50-50 philosophy that we have and we go forward with. So there's not something like you're going to meet with somebody else or somebody says, well, I need the best hub. I need the best advisor. Well, all of them are the best, or they wouldn't be working for us. And we're hiring, and we've got more people working for us today than we did 90 days ago. And in 90 days, we're going to have a number of more people working for us at the firm because we're building out to create these hubs and create that consistency going forward. And why am I doing it? Because of you, the client, I think should be treated this way so we have continuity. You're comfortable. You know what the expectations are, and it's just like when you come in for a first meeting, we explain our overall process of what each meeting looks like. What's the expectation? Because we're wanting to know what you're expecting from us. We also make aware of what we're expecting from you as a client so that becomes a relationship working forward to help you succeed financially with your money. And we are prepared to always to repeat conversations and have discussions, because you might see, for example, maybe you come in just once a year. That's a lot to cover there, but we're going to refresh, and we don't mind repeating those discussions and going over things for you. And if you're calling in, somebody's going to take your call, and if we can't solve it, they're going to get back to you with the answer or solve or get you on the calendar in for a meeting, whatever it is that you need. And we're always a forward-looking firm looking to improve and get better at what we do and not rest on our laurels from the past. So hopefully that gives you some insight of how the industry works, how I see what change is needing to be utilizing all the technology and data going forward. So hopefully that gives you some help. And if you want to call and talk to somebody on the team at Gregory Ricks and Associates, the office number is 504-832-9200. The website's gregoryricks.com. Tim, we're going to take your call immediately when we come back from the break. Hang in there for a couple minutes. You're listening to Winning at Life with Gregory Ricks, the 12th year anniversary show.
Ask Gregory is a financial podcast from the guys who bring you Winning at Life with Gregory Ricks. Learn the ins and outs, do's, don'ts, rules, and tools of the financial world. From rising inflation and higher taxes in retirement to market volatility, your 401k to your IRA, your pension to your Social Security to Medicare. Got a financial situation and you're not quite sure what to do? Ask Gregory. Ask Gregory is our new podcast with the financial topics broken down into specific little chunks. So if you have a financial situation or you just want to learn more about money, ask Gregory. Find the Ask Gregory podcast on the Winning at Life app, the iHeartRadio app, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcast, or wherever you get your podcast. Investment advisory services offered through AE Wealth Management, LLC. The firm is not affiliated with the U.S. government or any government agency.
If you're unprepared for current market volatility and concerned about how it could impact you, take action now. I'm Gregory Ricks. Let us help you devise a strategy to navigate this market. Make sure you're still on track to reach your financial goals. Schedule a visit at gregoryricks.com. We are Gregory Ricks and Associates, the Total Wealth Authority.
The firm provides insurance services, investment, and advisory services offered only by duly registered individuals through AE Wealth Management, LLC. AE Wealth Management, LLC, and Gregory Ricks and Associates are not affiliated companies.
Concerned about market volatility, rising inflation, higher taxes? How could it impact you? Make sure you're still on track to reach your financial goals and win at retirement.
Wine, Wisdom, and Food with Gregory Ricks. Tuesday, June 21st and Thursday, June 23rd, 6:30, Keith Young Steakhouse in Madisonville. Reserve your seat now. 504-832-9200 or GregoryRicks.com.
Firm offers insurance services. Advisory services offered through AE Wealth Management, LLC.
Cancer Crusaders has been raising funds for cancer research in New Orleans since 1976. Cancer Crusaders, Inc. is a nonprofit, all-volunteer organization with no administrative overhead. Cancer Crusaders has raised over $4 million so far, and all of that money goes to the Louisiana State University Health Sciences Center Foundation and the Tulane Cancer Center in New Orleans, where they are literally working on a cure for cancer. Get involved, donate, volunteer, or attend a fundraiser. CancerCrusadersLA.com.
Fox News, I'm Karen McHugh. There's some good news about the baby formula shortage as the Abbott manufacturing facility in Sturgis, Michigan reopens.
The reopening of this plant is a step in the right direction, but it's not a quick fix to the baby formula shortage. Abbott will start making EleCare formula today and says some of that will be available to customers as early as June 20th. That specialty brand was not part of the voluntary recall in mid-February. The company hasn't told us when it'll start making the two brands that were recalled, but once it does, Abbott says it could take up to 2 months before the product hits store shelves.
Fox's Grady Trimble. South Florida getting soaked by very heavy rain today, but on the bright side,
luckily so far there have been no injuries, so we're happy about that. We were able to get to everyone quickly.
Lieutenant Pete Sanchez of the Miami PD. America is listening to Fox News.
Winning at Life with Gregory Ricks is a copyright of Down South Strategies for the private use of our audience. Any unauthorized use of this broadcast without express consent is prohibited. For podcasts, show information, and contacts to our sponsors, go to winningatlife.com or download the Winning at Life app. If you have a financial situation and you're not quite sure what to do, you better call Gregory. We are Winning at Life with Gregory Ricks.
Yeah, the boys round here drinking that.
Hey, maybe you might be paying too much in taxes and retirement. Go to gregoryricks.com/too much. Yeah, gregoryricks.com/too much. Let's start a conversation.
You're listening to Winning at Life Radio. I'm your host, Gregory Ricks, 12th anniversary show. Yeah, 12 years of Winning at Life, live radio, taking calls. So let's jump to the calls. Tim called us on the hotline at 504-260-0995. And yeah, he's calling from Jackson. Tim, welcome to the show. How can we help you today?
Hey, thank you, Mr. Ricks, and congratulations on the 12 years.
Oh, thank you.
Thanks for taking my call.
Awesome.
Just a quick question. With inflation going up, I was curious as to if there's any traceable or predictions that, not necessarily predictions, but anything that we can look at historically that links the values or prices of precious metals to inflation, and would it be smart to reinvest maybe out of savings into precious metals during this time of higher inflation?
When the question comes up and is sometimes tied to gold, and when we look at historical returns on gold, it's not that well. I think it's, don't hold me exactly to it, but it's somewhere. I was talking with a gentleman yesterday that I do some coaching with. I always have a call with him, an hour. For every month I have a call with this fella. He just brings such insight. And one of the things he was talking about, and I've got a piece that we'll probably talk about on the show next week regarding metals, but I think you've got like 3% average return on history of gold, and the market, I'll tell you, is a little bit more than that from that standpoint. One of the things I'll share with you is we've had annual inflation exceed, in the past 170 years of keeping data, annual inflation has exceeded 7% in 21 separate years. So this is not something that just keeps on going or happens all the time. It's just bothersome when it does. And we're really impacted by it at this time. And it's just, and part of it is we've been spoiled, Tim. The 2010s, inflation averaged 1.4%. So we've never really felt it much, even though we kind of had this idea, I think things are costing more, but it is subtle over time when it averages 1.4%. But now all of a sudden we're seeing things jump. And the main cause is energy prices doubling up on us. So we really see it hard and fast there. And then it affects everything, because I was interviewed on a TV show the other day, and the thing I shared with them is, everything has to get from point A to point B by fuel, and it's impacting everything. But the other thing is, and here shortly, I'm going to talk about another way of looking at inflation, and y'all might be looking at it wrong. And we're going to talk about that different, take a different spin on inflation. But we are, one of the bigger impacts on staving off inflation is saving money, because if you're saving a portion of your income, it's not being inflated. Your house note's not inflated. Your car note's not being inflated. Your revolving credit is not being inflated. There's other things you do that's kind of locked in. That's not going up. It's just those consumables, like fuel and food and clothing somewhat, is impacting us right there. So that's kind of my thoughts, and I'm not a big metals guy because they just don't perform well. And then there's liquidity issues and costs of buying in and exiting metals, and then that's where do you keep it? Who's storing it? I kind of have concerns if I'm storing it. Do I trust them holding it in that vault up in New York or wherever that may be? Or if you've got it, buried in your backyard. And then if you're thinking of qualified money, that's a whole different thing. And I've got a topic for next week's show about holding, if you've got a qualified account, your IRA has gold. people might be doing it the wrong way is another reason I want to talk
Right.
about that as well. Any other questions, Tim?
No, that's really it. I didn't know if it was an overlooked opportunity, but I think I've got my answer now.
Okay, awesome. Thanks for listening and Winning at Life, and hopefully we can do it for 12 more years there. Thanks, Tim. All right, let's see. Let's stay with the callers. If you want to join the conversation, 504-2600-995 to talk with me on air. LB from Macomb, welcome to Winning at Life. How can we help you?
Hey, how you doing today?
Man, I'm doing good, celebrating 12 years of doing this. I couldn't, I knew I'd be doing it a long time, and I just didn't know I'd be doing it this long, and I'm good. So how can I help you?
Ms. Riggs, I got a couple questions. One is I had a 401 started. I was working for a trucking company about 30 years ago. And I think the company went out of business. Anyway, I called to see about the 401, and they told me that they had sold the account to somebody else or something. And I'm trying to figure out how can I see about if there's still any money there available or whatever.
Yeah, actually, that's a topic I'm going to cover next on the show with you on that. If you're okay with it, I'm going to let you go, and we're going to talk about it. You good?
Yeah, let me ask you one more question.
Okay, go ahead.
It's another conversation. I'm in well, I ain't gonna say a lot of debt, but I'm 68 years old. I'm on fixed income, and I got over my head on my bills, and I'm trying to figure out what do. I need to file bankruptcy or what I need to do. I got robbed about 3-4 months ago, and I had a lot of my accounts, my credit cards and stuff were being used, and I had to kind of close them out and call the companies and stuff like, what you go through. And I'm trying to see what would be my best out here. To do a bankruptcy?
Well, first, if it's credit cards and stuff, I'd speak with those institutions because you shouldn't be liable for that, probably. I'm just putting it out there that way. I would reach out to them, and if you've been robbed, you should also call the authorities there that you shouldn't be putting into that situation, because bankruptcy is something that sticks with you for a while. And in general, I would try to ask these that you owe money to and all for help before doing that. Communicate with them and what's going on. They want to get paid, but they don't want this to happen in a bad way that they don't ever get paid there. So I would reach out to these firms that you're owing money to and talk to them and be honest with them about what's going on before I decide on a drastic measure like bankruptcy. And it might well be appropriate for you, but I can't judge that. But I know these firms, they want to work with you in a way to get this going well for you. I really do believe that. And that's where, if that situation happened to me, that's where I would start before I go talk to an attorney and do bankruptcy.
I'm gonna listen to your 401 plan.
Yeah, I'm gonna talk about it on the radio here next.
Thanks for taking my call.
Awesome.
Thanks for taking my call.
Okay, great. So that's going to we've got 2 minutes left in this segment, and I'm going to clean this up on the back end. But over 20% of 401k funds are lost or forgotten. I'm going to give you some help on how to find out about yours, and this might help LB great deal if he has money sitting out there. If you're one of many workers who have quit their job at a record-setting rate during the pandemic, you may have forgotten about your 401k plan along the way. When you quit a job, you can either leave your 401k with your old employer, you can cash it out, or roll it over to an individual retirement account. You always hear me call it the acronyms IRAs, or you can merge it with your new company's 401k plan. There are situations that's appropriate to leave it at the old job, but most of the time I feel it should be moved over. Cashing it, oh my goodness, that's a big taxable event. I would not do it that way as well, because you're going to pay taxes on the balance, and you Depending on your age, you could have early withdrawal 10% penalty for doing so. I also suggest you talk to a financial professional. I think the most viable is rolling it over to an IRA. And even if it's from a previous 401k, it could be later rolled into the new company plan as well. So that's your options with a 401k, but if you've left it somewhere else, and it's been a long time. I had somebody the other day said, I think I left a plan behind 24 years ago. And I helped him out with it. I'm going to help you when we come back from the break. You're listening to Winning at Life with Gregory Ricks.
If you've got a financial situation and you're not quite sure what to do, you better call Gregory.
Regarding life insurance, you have three core types that I think of as term life insurance, universal life insurance, and whole life insurance. I can hear them out there, some of the guys in the industry that are listening to my show. Well, you miss variable life. Yeah, I know. There's some downside risk to that. Are you wanting your life insurance to have some negative stuff going on? I think not. So I'd rather have more of a defined life insurance and how this is going to work going forward. We should have a conversation. We've got kids, all this responsibility. Maybe it should be bumped.
Gregory Ricks and Associates. Find us at GregoryRicks.com or call 504-832-9200. Investment advisory services offered through AE Wealth Management, LLC.
Oh, Rover, you have fleas again? Prevent fleas and ticks from setting up shop in your backyard. Those bloodsuckers can bite up to 400 times a day and carry nasty diseases like typhus and tapeworms. Give Rover some relief and contact Mosquito Joe. Their mosquito control services also kill and prevent fleas and ticks. Let Mosquito Joe be your first line of defense against those blood-sucking pests. NewOrleans.MosquitoJoe.com. NewOrleans.MosquitoJoe.com.
Ask Gregory is a financial podcast from the guys who bring you Winning at Life with Gregory Ricks. Something that's come up is, if you're not at your old job, maybe your 401k shouldn't be either. But do you really know why we say that? Ask Gregory is our new podcast with financial topics broken down into specific little chunks. So if you have a financial situation or you just want to learn more about money, ask Gregory. Find the Ask Gregory podcast on the Winning at Life app or wherever you get podcasts. Investment advisory services offered through AE Wealth Management, LLC. The firm is not affiliated with the U.S. government or any government agency.
The Ricks Report with Gregory Ricks.
Can you raise your payout on your Social Security after full retirement by continuing working and paying in more? Do you get a raise for that?
Remember, the core thing is Social Security benefits you receive are based on your best 35 years. If you have less than 35 years, those are filled in with zeros. So if you're making more money this year that replaces, say, that first year of the 35, it is inflation adjusted. That will improve your benefit. And they reset that, they recalculate that every year. So even while you're drawing benefits, you could well be incrementally improving your benefits.
Winning at Life with Gregory Ricks, Saturday mornings at 10 on News Talk 99.5 WRNO. Find us on the Winning at Life app or GregoryRicks.com. Investment advisory services offered through AE Wealth Management, LLC.
Hey, y'all. Thank you for listening to my 12th year anniversary show. Appreciate all the callers over the years and listeners, and hopefully we can do this for 12 more years. Bring you Winning at Life with Gregory Ricks. I am your host, Gregory Ricks, and very thankful that you all let me do this for you every Saturday. Okay, so you may have forgotten about that old 401k. Hey, get this. At the end of 2021, there were nearly 25 million forgotten 401k accounts worth about 20% of all 401k assets in the U.S., according to estimates by Capitalize, a financial services company that specializes in 401ks. Since these funds typically remain invested, they can add up to a lot of money. The average forgotten 401k account balance is, get this, $55,400, according to Capitalize's analysis. Plus, you're likely paying unnecessary administration fees to keep those additional 401k accounts open, which is why consolidating 401k plans might be a good move. To avoid missing out on those funds, you'll want to make sure you've tracked down all of your plans. Here's the simplest way to find that lost account. The simplest way to find your 401k account is to contact your previous employer's human resources department and ask if you still have leftover 401k plan there. Or if you still have old statements, you should include your plan's account number as well as the plan administrator's contact information. In some cases, the amount of money held in your account might affect where the funds end up. If the funds in your lost 401k account total less than $1,000, your old employer is allowed to cash it out. In that case, the company might have mailed you the check already. If the funds were between $1,000 and $5,000, they may be allowed to roll your plan into an IRA on your behalf. It also could end up maybe possibly at lost funds with the state that you reside in. Either way, your old employer should be able to confirm whether they sent you a check or otherwise provide details how to access your new IRA account if they did move it to an IRA. However, sometimes employers merge with other companies since you were there, so there could be name changes and such and contact information change, or the company you once worked for may not exist. This can make tracking down that 401k kind of difficult. Fortunately, I'm about to give you a few databases that you can do searches with to find that old 401k plan you may have lost track of. You can first start with the National Registry of Unclaimed Retirement Benefits, a secure site that allows you to search for lost plans using your Social Security number. The National Association of Unclaimed Property Administrators also operates a database that lets you search for plans by your first and last name. If you think your employer rolled over your 401k into an IRA, you can use Free ERISA. That's free, ERISA, to track it down. If you're still not having luck, the Department of Labor's Abandoned Plan Database might offer some updated information on plans that have been or are about to be discontinued. Once you've located your plan, you can stick with what you have or ask the plan administrators for a direct rollover to your new employer's plan, or you can cash it out, which that's going to probably be a taxable event. That might be expensive, so be careful with that, or move it to a rollover IRA account. And yeah, I'm kind of biased. I've got a great group of people that could help you with that. So this article is going to be put up on my news blog. This is something we do at GregoryRicks.com. I have a news blog, and it posts articles that I've read or talked about on the show that are relevant to probably helping you, and it's searchable by topic as well on the website. We had an earlier caller and asked about inflation, and I want to share this concept with you. You possibly could be thinking about inflation all wrong. The most recent CPI data came in at about 8.5% year over prior year. So there's a lot of talk online about inflation, its impact on your finances. Unfortunately, one of the most common arguments made about inflation is with respect to income isn't exactly correct. And it kind of goes like this. If inflation is 8.5% and your employer gives you a raise of less than 8.5%, then you're worse off in purchasing power terms than last year. On its face, this kind of makes sense. If prices increase 8.5% and your pay goes up by 8.5% in order to be the same off, right? Well, not exactly. A couple problems with this argument. First, the argument assumes that your inflation rate is the same as the inflation rate calculated in the CPI index. But we know that is probably not true. Since everyone consumes different things in different quantities, we all have our own personal inflation rates. For example, since I don't, and this, once again, want to share, Nick Maguioli is the writer of this, and he kind of notes in the article that he doesn't own a car, so higher gasoline prices impact him less than someone else who commutes to work every day. But let's put this argument aside for now and assume your personal rate of inflation matches the CPI. So the second is the logic above assumes that your pay is identical to your spending. If your pay is above your rate of spending, then you can get by with a raise less than inflation rate and still be off the same. Give you an example of what I'm talking about here. Once again, the logic above assumes that your pay is identical to your spending. If your pay is above your rate of spending, then and you're a saver, then you can get by with a raise less than inflation and be the same off. Let's give you an example here. Let's assume you're being paid $100,000 a year after taxes and you spend $50,000 of it. Well, if inflation hits 10% over the next year, your basket of goods will now cost you $55,000 to purchase, $5,000 more. So how does your $100,000 salary have to go up to offset this? 10%? No, only 5%. It's at $5,000 for you to break even. So this is half the inflation rate. So you only need a 5% raise and you're good from that. You don't have to have a 10% raise because of your spending. You know, think about it. Your house note's not going up. Your car note's not going up. Your revolving credit's not going up. There's probably other things you're buying or paying for or doing consistently is not affected. It's just those consumables, like gasoline, you know, the food, the clothing is what's being impacted. What portion of your income is that? There was news the other day talking about a third of earners, and this is basically regardless of income, live paycheck to paycheck. And they were talking about how, gosh, inflation is wrecking them. Well, that's assuming 100% of their income that they're living paycheck to paycheck is consumables. But I'm telling you, a big part of that is their mortgage, their car note, their kids' tuition, their revolving credit is a big part of that. So all that's not being inflated there. So maybe what you got to worry about is that part of the consumables and help you catch up that way. Hey, everybody, thank you for joining us today. Come back and join us next Saturday. If you have a financial situation, need help, here's the number, 504-832-9200. The website's GregoryRicks.com. Y'all have a great weekend. Appreciate you.
Firm offers insurance services. Gregory Ricks & Associates is an independent financial services firm that utilizes a variety of investment and insurance products. Investment advisory services offered only by duly registered individuals through AE Wealth Management, LLC. AE Wealth Management and Gregory Ricks & Associates are not affiliated companies. Investing involves risk, including the potential loss of principal. Any references to protection, safety, or lifetime income generally refer to fixed insurance products, never securities or investments. Insurance guarantees are backed by the financial strength and claims-paying abilities of the issuing carrier. This radio show is intended for informational purposes only. It is not intended to be used as the sole basis for a financial decision, nor should it be construed as advice designed to meet the particular needs of an individual's situation. Gregory Ricks & Associates is not permitted to offer, and no statement made during this show shall constitute tax or legal advice. Our firm is not affiliated with or endorsed by the U.S. government or any governmental agency. The information and opinions contained herein, provided by third parties, have been obtained from sources believed to be reliable, but accuracy and completeness cannot be guaranteed by Gregory Ricks & Associates. Please remember that converting an employer plan account to a Roth IRA is a taxable event. Increased taxable income from the Roth IRA conversion may have several consequences, including, but not limited to, a need for additional tax withholding or estimated tax payments, the loss of certain tax deductions and credits, and higher taxes on Social Security benefits and higher Medicare premiums. Be sure to consult with a qualified tax advisor before making any decisions regarding your IRA. Neither AE Wealth Management nor advisors providing investment advisory services through AE Wealth Management recommend or facilitate the buying or selling of cryptocurrencies. Third parties and guests of the show are not affiliated with, nor do their opinions reflect those of Gregory Ricks & Associates or AE Wealth Management. AE Wealth Management provides services without regard to political affiliation, and the views of individual advisors are not necessarily the views of AE Wealth Management. We are Winning at Life with Gregory Ricks.
WRNO FM, New Orleans, an iHeart radio station. Available everywhere on our free iHeart radio app. #1 for music, radio, and podcasts, all in one.